Coming to you from the Strings and Things studio in Ventura, California, this is the Strings Unraveled podcast.
Welcome. It is July. Happy July, everybody. We're in the middle of summer, and it feels like it.
Yep.
It's not so bad today, but it's definitely hot in Fillmore. It's a little gloomy here in Ventura, but I'm happy for that because that means I can come here and hide.
It's humid out here. Though.
Yeah, it's a little humid today.
Muggy for sure.
Yep.
Not Florida, but...
Threat of thunderstorms. Actually.
Yeah, I heard that.
We're having a pretty humid summer.
Yeah.
Because we've had days that are like 70% humidity. And I happened to be looking at something for Nashville, Tennessee on Sunday, and it was only 40% humidity in Nashville, Tennessee.
Ooh.
I think it was higher humidity in Ventura that day.
Yeah,
I've been having better hair days because of it, so I'm
yeah,
okay with
that.
Bad. For those of us who are curly haired, that's like a good thing.
It has felt like it because I have been sweaty lately.
Yeah. Ding ding.
Well, who wants to start with what they're working on? Karin doesn't. She wants to go last, so we'll let her go last.
I am, of course, working on tons of things, but I'm actually been very focused this month because I'm trying to finish something to wear this weekend. We're going to San Francisco, and we're going to see an Oakland A's game. So I had this yarn that when I swatched it up, it's like, oh, well, I'll have to wear that to an A's game.
Mm-hmm.
It's I'm making Andrea Mowry's Velocore, which came out last spring because I bought the pattern in March, and I think I bought it right when it came out. It is 3 colors. I'm using for my main color a self-striping. I don't know the yarn company. This was gifted to me. And I had 200 grams, 2 balls. And I think they're 460 yards per 100 grams. So I got plenty of this yarn.
Yeah.
It's orange and yellow and white and green, like a springtime yellow green, and it's supposed to be self-striping after a cantaloupe.
Oh, okay.
So that really
it's very citrusy,
works.
but I could see cantaloupe.
Yeah. Maybe this isn't the cantaloupe one. I have another one that's similar. That's cantaloupe.
Uh-huh.
This one might be the citrusy one.
Oh well, it
could go either way. Yeah, it could go either way. So anyways, it's cute. It's not my usual colors. And then I have a dark green that was I don't remember what yarn company this is. It's a really good yarn company. It's really yummy.
Pretty green.
We got it at Anacapa. We only carried like 1 or 2 colors by this company. Tough Love is their sock yarn.
Yeah. It wasn't that Yarn Love?
Nope.
Tough Love.
I'll look it up.
It's older. Yeah. And then I'm using I don't know what this other one is. So my green is that yummy. It's a silk blend. It has like a really
Sweet
pretty.
Georgia.
Yes, it's Sweet Georgia.
That is a good
some
yarn.
kind of silk blend from them. That's gorgeous. This perfect green. That's absolutely me. And then this is like a charcoal. I think this is Patton's Croy.
Mm-hmm.
So this is taking a lot longer than I expected.
It's a slip stitch pattern?
It's a slip stitch pattern where you do like a little cable in the main color. So there's these bars of a micro cable going all the way up. It's a 5-stitch repeat. So the repeat's very easy. It's on size 3 needles. It's just taking a really long time.
That does sound like it would take a long time.
It's a sleeveless top. So I was like, I will be done with this in no time.
Uh-huh.
But each set of the pattern repeat, which is 24 rows, takes me about 4 to 4.5 hours.
Oh. So are you
so
gonna
you're
finish
like,
it?
I don't know. We'll see. The game's on Saturday.
It's a good project to knit while you're there.
Right. I have other things I can wear. And it might be that every once in a while the high school student in me is revolting because though the A's are a beloved team of my husband's family and I'm kind of in that camp now. I mean, I'm definitely in the camp of my husband's family, but of being an A's fan.
They finally accepted you is what you're saying?
I guess. Well, that's a different story, but yeah, okay, sure. My high school rival, these are their colors.
Ooh.
And so I think every once in a while I kind of stop and reject it. but I love it. I mean, it's going well and it's really pretty. I'm going to make another one in more my colors, which I have like a aqua blue and a navy and a copper. So the aqua will be where the self striping is, and the navy will be where the green is, and the copper will be a stripe every few rows.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to that one because it's a fun pattern, and if I didn't have a deadline, I would just like merrily work away and then be so happy when it was suddenly done. Thank God it's sleeveless.
Yeah, right.
Then I set almost everything aside so that I could have fidelity with this pattern. But I'm also working up another stripes, also by Andrea Mowry. I like to I'm going to make a lot of her things, but I don't like working on two of her things at the same time. I need a little more variety in my knitting life. Not because there's anything wrong with her patterns. It's just...
Is your writing similar for all of her patterns, or is there some variety?
I mean, these two patterns are super different. So, I mean, all of her yoke down sweaters kind of have the same verbiage. So if you compared the one we all did that kind of introduced us to her, the fade with So Faded, I guess, with the stripes, it's not too different, and kind of they're both actually basically very simple sweaters. They're actually both essentially striped sweaters.
Just with a little more.
Yeah, a little more planning.
Sure.
Anyway, it's not a dig on Andrea Mowry. It's just like, oh, I like to have a little more variety.
Yeah, knitting two sweaters by the same designer at the same time.
I swear okay, wait, I was going to say I'm not a fangirl. That's a lie. Then I'm also crocheting 2 dog blankets. Ask me why I'm crocheting 2 dog blankets.
Why would you need
why
2
are
dog
you
blankets?
making dog blankets?
Oh, because I have 2 new doggies.
Oh.
Their names are Yuki and Doug. We changed Doug's name from something else, which was not a good dog name. But he's Doug after the Up dog. Hello, my name is Doug. I just met you and I love you.
Oh, okay, because I wasn't gonna say, "What's up, dog?"
Well, he also had to come home with a cone of shame, so it was sort of a no duh. So they are very lovely animals. To me, they are small to mid-sized dogs because all my dogs have been.
They look like big dogs.
They're technically large dogs. They weigh like 45 to 50 pounds each of them.
That's
a big dog.
But my last 2 dogs have been over 100 pounds, so they seem like small dogs to me. So I'm making them granny stripe blankets. One of them is all white and one of them is all black. So I'm making white.
One of the dogs is all white and one of the dogs is all black. Is that what you're saying? Or the blanket?
Well, then I'm making the blankets to match them.
Got it.
But that got very boring.
Right.
So I bought some self-striping to work in the granny stripes pattern.
Can I ask how you're going to keep the white dog on the white blanket and the black dog on the black blanket?
Well, they are crate trained.
Oh, there you go.
So their blankets will go in their crates. And we like them both, and we think that they might like each other. They started in the same household, which is why we were able to adopt both of them at the same time. And Yuki came home and she was like full of love and so happy and just loving on us and so happy to be at our house, it seemed. And then we're like, she's gonna be so great, she's gonna be so happy when we bring her brother home.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't fixed, he was an unaltered man. Which is very weird to me that she was fixed and he was not, and they were living in the same household.
Yeah.
So we bring Doug home, and it was not the beautiful reunion that we thought it would be. It wasn't bad. It just was like, yeah. Kind of like, she thought maybe she was going to be an only dog.
She was getting away.
Yeah.
Finally, I get all the attention.
You brought him with you.
Him.
And he is kind of a jealous boyfriend, so there's a lot of like, regulating that she still gets the loves. Yeah.
Cute.
And then, since we're going to the A's game, I am making Kevin 2 A's button-down shirts.
Nice.
One is almost finished, but I'm not throwing it in my finished category because I still need to do buttonholes and buttons tonight.
Yeah, so it's not done yet.
It's not. It is not done.
Cool.
And the other one's going to get mostly sewn tonight.
Well, there you go. Well, I am working on a sweater called the Everyday Cardigan. I think it's from Sorella.com. It's a free pattern for a crocheted cardigan that's very basic. I'm currently teaching the garden cardi as a class, and it's been fun and successful. And so this is going to be a different crocheted cardigan. I'm not 100% committed to teaching it as a class just yet, because I want to try and get through the pattern first, just to make sure there's no, like, blaring, things to watch out for, because it is a free pattern. And sometimes I find that crochet patterns and knitting patterns, but sometimes the last one wasn't scaled very well as far as sizing goes. So I want to try and get this done in my size so I can see if it looks like reasonable to teach. So the body of it's done, the hemline ribbing of it is done. I still need to do the edging around the neckline and put the sleeves on, but it's basically like 3 rectangles and tubes for the sleeves that you sew on. So nice. I just started a sleeve. Right now I'm doing some crochet ribbing and using a yarn from Michaels, whatever their brand is.
It looks really soft.
It is. It's nice. You can feel it. It's called cotton cream or cream cotton or something. Oh. And it is. Let me.
Oh, it's very soft.
Yeah, it's a nice yarn.
It's a good name for it, creamy.
They still make the yarn, but I don't think they make that color anymore. All of the colors are kind of babyish that they have right now. But I bought it last year, and I bought 4 balls for a different project. And I was like, oh, I have this. This will work for that. But I can only find 3 balls. I know there's a 4th one because I bought 4. I looked. So I'm going to have to, like, dig out my closet and see if I can find ball number 4, because I think I'm going to need it. I just started my 3rd ball, and I have 2 sleeves in the neckline to do. So I don't think I'm going to make it.
No,
I think I'll
need the 4th one.
So I'll have to go home and look for it. I've kind of put off doing it because I just haven't wanted to, tackle that. So
I get it.
I'm working on that, and it's really the only thing I've been working on for the last week or so because I'm trying to get it done. And I have a knitted top that I'm working on called Jessie's Girl.
Oh, that's cute.
I know some customers have made it, or one in particular that I know of has made it maybe a couple times. And it's a sport weight garter stitch t-shirt. Very simple. The yarn I'm using is from Forbidden Fibers. I think it's Proverbs is the yarn. It's like a cotton linen maybe blend. Ooh. I bought it for a different project, but then I thought, oh, this would be good for that. And it's a green color. And I don't remember what the name of the color is, but it's green. It's like a plant name or like a flower or something. It doesn't matter. I'm not far along on it. It's bottom up. I don't have it with me, but it's I'm only just into the body.
Garter stitch in the round?
Yeah. But that's all I'm really working on right now as far as like yarny stuff. I had a couple quilts I was working on, but I'm going to talk about them in the next segment.
All right.
So, Karin,
now it's your turn. On?
Okay. So, things in progress. I'm still doing started a test knit for Tina Say, and I don't know if we were just talking about last time.
Yeah, we talked about it. We didn't talk about it publicly.
Because I'm on tiny needles.
Fun.
What size is yours?
Well, I'm doing the size 5, which is like the larger size range. And to gauge the gauge that we needed on fingering. It's not fingering? No.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it is fingering. Of 6 stitches to the inch. I had to go to like 2.5. I'm doing a sweater on a 2.5
for 6 stitches. That's crazy.
I usually need a 4.
I'm usually I get 5 stitches to the inch on a 4.
Well,
so you might be the loosest knitter of the group then.
I didn't used to be loose. I started off super tight.
Well, it's not a criticism.
No, I've just sort of chilled a lot over the last almost 20 years of knitting. But I'm almost ready to separate. I'm doing the yoke. There's a lot of slip stitching and there's a high contrast. And so a little bit of cables so that your slip stitches move and kind of cross really, really well. Anyway, I like how after you take the after you take the sleeves off, you'll do the body for about 1 inch, and then you're going to go back and finish off the sleeves.
Smart. Okay, I like her
Because then you're doing the sleeve with, they're just short sleeves for one thing. Then you've got plenty to finish off the sleeves.
That's nice.
And then you're not trying to do the small circumference of a sleeve with the weight of the whole body on it.
Nice.
So, and it's because it's top down. It's really fun construction, the way the increases are integrated into, it's like a garter stitch, but because it's in the round, you're knitting around, purling around, knitting around, with slip stitch it, or when you purl the opposite color, you're doing a lot of slip stitching, and the space at the neck, the spaces between them grow. It's kind of fun. Anyway, that's going to be called Floating Magnolias. It's going to come out in probably another month. I am working on a pineapple quilt top. It's a foundation paper piecing. It's one that I started, and I just need like 2 more squares, and then I'm done with this quilt top.
Yeah,
nice. Kind of cool. Which is good because nothing like having class samples as a motivation to finish things, or at least to keep working on them.
Sure.
I realized I had made it with a jelly roll of what's called Monkey Business by Tula Pink. And somewhere in the process of making it, I must have used some of my Monkey Business, jelly roll strips for something else, because I'm kind of short. It's like, oh well. And of course they don't carry that anymore. But the great thing about Tula Pink is that all of her fabric pretty much goes together. Yeah. So I just picked up some of the Curiouser and Curiouser to work on. It's
cool that she always works in the same
color palette.
Like she has this personal palette and she's always sampling from it.
And it could be a light rainbow or a dark rainbow. I'm working on a new jelly roll rug because I want to do a class, but the one I made before is at home and has been well used. So I'm like, oh, I need to bring that. Either I did wash it, so it does look nice, so I can get pictures of a finished project. But at the same time, I would need to make a new one. So I'm gonna
want to walk people to the bathroom to show the sample that's in the bathroom.
That's not the oval one.
No, you're doing an oval.
Yeah, okay. I'm doing the oval one rather than just the strips. But I'm doing it in solids, which I almost never do fabrics in solids. But I know you're gonna be shocked. What colors of Kona solid would Karin be using?
Yellow,
orange,
pink, chartreuse.
You're not
red, wrong. Red, lots of red.
You're not wrong about that chartreuse.
Well, yeah, I was going towards yellow, but like I knew I was dipping into your usual color.
Whatever.
Palette.
It's ombre blues and teals. What else?
That is so not Karin.
No, it's Kona solid. That's where my variation comes from. It's not the same. I swear. It's something different. It's new. But it's Kona. The quality of Kona as a solid, because technically, well, and I'll save it for the next segment, because there's a bunch of stuff I did that are in the finished column. But
you had a productive month.
Yeah.
Cool.
It wasn't a fun project, though.
Oh.
Anyway.
Okay.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Those, and then I do have something in my hands, but I don't want to talk about it because by the time we are ready to do the next segment, it'll be done.
She's working on something.
I'm going to talk really fast.
I have a good number of things that I have finished, and I can talk for a long time if you need me to.
I don't absolutely.
I don't have very much finished. So I guess I'll go then.
Are you done with all your things you're working on?
Yes.
Okay.
I finished 2 Ogden Cami hacks. So Ogden Cami is True Bias, I think.
True Bias, or is it Helen's Closet?
It's not Helen's Closet.
Oh, okay.
Actually, and as we say it, I feel more conviction that it's True Bias. Because it's the same as Shelby Romper. It's like one of their older first patterns, I think. And it's very, very popular. It's just a simple camisole. I think I've probably talked about it in the past. They expanded the sizes last year, so that's nice. And there's, if you... I don't follow the Ogden Cami hashtag on Instagram. I follow the Ogden Cami hack.
Yeah. You know what it looks like. You want to see what else it can do.
Yeah. So a lot of people do this, and I've made one before. I've talked about it probably May or June's podcast. But anyway, you just make the camisole and then you add a tiered skirt to it, which is two of my favorite things. So I wore that on Saturday. You probably saw.
I saw that hack. It was fantastic.
It was actually meant to be kind of like an autumnal fall dress because it was all the fabric that is left from last year's Halloween fabric at Joann's. There was like nothing left by the time I was in the mood to buy Halloween fabric for my own use. So it's black and gold for the camisole, and to make it empire waisted, I just cut it at the level of the lining. So I actually just cut the lining piece out twice, once for the lining and once for the front. And then I did 3 tiers. When I work with 45-inch fabric, I always do the width of fabric times 2 for the first tier, times 4 for the second tier, and then times 8.
That's a great way to do it.
That's a lot of fabric.
8 it's a lot. It took like several sittings for interest level, several sittings to do the gathering. Because I have fully converted to doing the three stitches worth of, like 3 sets of rows of stitches for gathering. So you do the 2 rows close together, and then the third row about 1.5 inches away, so that it all lines up clearly.
Do you machine gather or hand gather?
My God. I use the sewing machine on the highest stitch. I saw someone doing it with 0 tension, and I found that was too much gathering for me, so I just keep the tension normal. Yeah, so that's a lot.
Can you explain a little bit more why you use 3 rows of stitching?
So it was a tip from Grainline, another independent pattern company. So the way I have always done my gathering for big projects like this is I will go section by section. So like, if it's 8 sections with the fabric, I would do 1 row of stitching per section. So I was looking at Grainline, and you see this in patterns a lot. They say to do 2, because then you have a backup row of stitching in case your thread breaks. So the third row you do about 1.5 inches or so, like way far away from your 2 backup that are doing the actual gathering. The third line of stitching is to, like when you're hanging your curtains and you want them to drape evenly and you don't want it all bunched up. This keeps it, pulls the gathers in
so as you're sewing,
perpendicular line.
So they don't twist or go crooked.
Yeah. So, sometimes you get that unattractive super bunching in places. Yeah. This helps you even the gathers out so that it has made a tremendous difference in the quality of how that seam looks after it wastes a lot of thread. So I have been using it to finish off bobbins.
Yeah.
If I think it will
go, what a great idea.
Yeah, to empty the bobbin of that little bit of thread, but you want to make sure you can go the whole distance.
Right. It's got to be just enough thread.
Right. So, and I would take it out and start over again with the stitching if it didn't go the whole distance. It's too annoying. And with all those threads, one more thing I add to it, other than doing it section by section, is the side I'm going to pull the threads on together, I tie them together. And then I kind of trim away anything that's not in those 3 strands tied together. And then the second one is a very convoluted path to how it came out. So I made a regular length just as a top camisole. And I was shopping in the remnant bin. And I think my size needs 1.5 yards or 1.75 yards, something, 1.5 yards plus. And so I found this really cute California fabric that has poppies and the Golden Gate Bridge and Joshua Tree and the Hollywood sign and just all kinds of California emblematic things sprinkled all across it. And then it was only 1 yard because it's in the remnant bin. And I thought, well, I can get something to be the lining. So then when I laid it out, I didn't have enough to do the front and back out of 1 yard. Okay, now we know, Anne. So I could cut a front and a half a back, which is, again, the length of the lining. So I thought, well, I will make just a little gathered skirt across the back. And it'll have just a cute little half peplum across the back out of my lining fabric. which I thought there would be enough. So then I go to assemble it. I had it cut out like months ago. I go to assemble it, and the piece of lining fabric that I was going to use for the peplum, there was no gathering it. It was like exactly the size of the back.
Uh-huh.
So I went back to Joann's to look for more fabric. I found the original fabric.
Oh. Okay.
Bolts of it. And then they have a ton of other variations, like just the California poppies all over it.
Oh,
and
cool.
like just cute variations of it. And then they have some other places like London. Anyway, cute travel fabric. So I just bought more of the fabric.
Nice.
And I still did peplum because the rest was all cut out. So I didn't really need to do that. I should have just looked around the store and bought more fabric.
Yeah, well.
But you added a hack to it that was really cool.
It's very cute. I need to be shortening the straps, and I probably won't remember that next time. Probably need to take about an inch.
But you have a notebook that you keep track of all. You have like a making journal.
Sure, I have that, but you have to like actually enter things in it. Like I get these hyper organized ideas of how I'm going to track my movements, and then I immediately rebel against them. Immediately.
Yeah.
I'll keep a journal.
You don't like anyone telling you what to do. Not even if it's
myself.
you.
Oh, no. It's almost worse when it's my own plans.
Why am I lecturing me? Stop it, Anne. No, I mean like Karin.
Yeah. I understood. You were doing my internal dialogue. I have, I don't know if I'm using this term right, but I heard someone talking about reframing their thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been practicing a lot of thought reframing lately. So that's my very long story about my 2 finished objects.
Nice. Well, I mean, it's better than no finished objects, right?
Yeah. No, I'm very happy with them. They turned out really... The dress particularly, if it was not so exhausting to do that 3rd tier,
yeah,
I would have 100 of them.
Yeah, that's a lot of fabric.
You know, like it's like a gown.
Yeah, it is quite large.
Yeah.
You make me miss my tiered skirt, though. I had one in really great colors
Make
and browns
one.
And teal and
Oh,
modern.
yeah, that was so cute. I remember it.
It's still around. I just have to now. The elastic is shot, so I have to replace the elastic. But
I understand. I have some skirts from Mirabella that like length will still work for her, but they were made for her when she was 4.
I mean, how many projects do we have that we loved until they just need a little more love to get them back into shape? And we're like, no, you can go sit in the corner for a while.
Yeah, I'll make a whole new dress.
You're requiring more work from me.
Yeah, that's more fun.
How about a new thing? How about we make you a new tiered skirt, Karin? It's super fun and super easy.
It really is fun, and it is super easy. And this one was made up of a whole bunch of squares.
It's just tier 3.
Sewn together.
That's frustrating.
That just takes a while.
One that I'm going to do... So I'm going to do a tiered skirt of jelly rolls. So you, like, ideally for the shortest well, I don't know. The length I like to do is 45 inches. But you could get away with shorter. So anyway, you just divide how long you want it into 3. So you'd make your 1 jelly roll set the width of fabric times 2. And then like the same criteria, but you piece the sets of jelly rolls until you get the length of the tier you want. If that's making sense.
Yeah.
So like if you had a panel of a quilt, it would be that depth.
Right.
Of jelly rolls. I hope that's making sense to the listeners because you guys are telling me it's making sense.
Oh, yeah. So it starts off being fairly even stripes, but as the width of the gathering requires more jelly rolls to get that circumference, then it shifts it.
Well, I'm going long ways. Is that how you're picturing it too?
So you would need like 2 strips for the top tier.
Yeah.
By the number for the length.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. But you need twice that.
Yeah. So then your next one
would be 4 jelly roll strips end to end.
So the segments would have to squish.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. It's
but what's cool is then the pattern of it rotates.
Kind of. Yeah. Probably.
So is that 1 jelly roll?
I think so.
That's
because I overbought for something.
That's a lot of yarn. I mean, yarn.
Well, a jelly roll is not very much yardage.
Well, it's 40 by 2.5 inches. So
yeah,
that's
I mean, it's enough for like a throw-sized quilt. So if you wrap that around your leg,
more than 2 yards.
That's a skirt.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money for 2 yards of fabric.
It is a lot of money for 2 yards of fabric.
Oh, I have something for the next.
So I have an endeavor into garment sewing that I need to talk about.
Ooh.
So I have a wedding to go to,
Yes.
and I need 2 different outfits for 2 different occasions, and one of them is like cocktail attire. I am not a fancy person. I live in Southern California. I didn't own any heels before this week anymore, so I had to go buy a new pair of heels. And I found this dress at the Goodwill that's like a velvet, like camisole on top, V-neck with like an elasticated skirt. Very simple pattern, style. But it was too big, which is hardly ever my problem.
Yay.
So I was like, well, I think I could probably take in the top and just reattach it to the existing skirt. Because the skirt's fine, it's elasticated, it'll fit.
Yeah.
So I separated the skirt from the top.
Okay.
I took in the sides how I thought I needed to, but then it made like the bust darts on the side weird. And I had to do a little bit of thinking to figure out how I would fix that. And then I thought, well, what if I just, and the elastic had been removed because I needed to remove it to get the top off. So the skirt was one piece and then it didn't have any elastic. And I was like, well, what if I just put the elastic back on the skirt and just turn it into a skirt?
Yeah.
So I tried to do that. But as I was like laying it out to do it, I noticed a big hole in the skirt that I didn't notice when I bought the dress.
Oh.
So I was like, okay, new plan. I'll cut a panel out of it because it was gathered. It had enough fabric. If I cut off it was like a 5-inch long strip down the side that I cut off. I re-sewed the side seam. Okay, now I'm going to put elastic back in the top. And the fabric was very stretchy. So I measured elastic around my waist. I sewed it on, but it was stretched out from sewing it. So it no longer fit once it was sewed onto the skirt. And I was like,
sorry.
Damn it. And at this point I was like, I'm not unpicking all of the stitching to take because I had like zigzag stitched the elastic onto the top.
Okay.
So I threw it away.
Oh no. Okay.
The dress cost me like $8, but I was like, I'm over this. So that was my
Okay, so this is not the sewing conundrum.
No, that's my garment.
This is the background. Okay.
This is my garment sewing fail.
Okay.
Because I needed to make a different garment. This is one of my finished objects for my niece. Because she told me, she turned 6 years old, she told me she wanted me to make her a dress. And originally I was like, well, maybe I'll take her to the fabric store and let her pick a pattern and we'll figure it out together. But knowing a 6-year-old, it would have been far easier for me just to find a pattern.
Yeah.
And unbeknownst to me, she had already designed her dress because she gave me a drawing of a dress, and it was like pink on the top, it had a purple ruffle on the bottom, it had little teal blue sleeves. She was very into mermaids, had a seashell on the front. She's like, this is the dress I want you to make. And I was like, okay. I'm not a garment sewer, but I'll do my best. So then I went to Anne and I said, can I please look at your pattern? So I found a pattern from Anne's stash, and I kind of subbed in the colors in the places where it was supposed to be. It was a McCall's pattern number M6982. I wrote it down. And it's like a drop waist, puffy sleeves, and then like a ruffled skirt.
Totally cute.
It's very cute. The pattern said it was easy, and then as I was reading here's all the things that this pattern has. It was like elasticated sleeves and gathering here and this and that, and I'm like, I've also never installed a zipper in a garment before.
Oh, but
I've
so
installed
good at
1,000 zippers in various other
bags.
things, so I was like, I think I know how to do this.
Yeah.
There was one point where I was like, I wish Anne was here right now, because I was like, no, I can figure out what they're asking me to do, but it didn't make sense. But I did it. It was fine.
I love our team.
So that's why I was curious about the 3 strands of gathering, because I did the 2 rows like they told me to do, and I was like, I think I'm doing this right, but that would have made my life easier.
Yeah, you did it right, but the grain line tip?
Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah. My mantra was like, it's fine, she's 6.
Yes.
It's like, I get into like a groove where I'm like, oh, but it's not perfect. There's a little pleat in that seam right there. I'm like, okay,
she's 6.
That's
she's
the
6.
bag maker in you.
Yes.
The quilter in you. Because you can't have those things in a bag or a quilt. In a garment, nobody knows.
So this is, I gave it to her. She was very excited. Here she is modeling it.
Oh my gosh, so cute. Oh, and look how happy
she was very excited. She had a mermaid themed birthday party, so she was very excited.
She's so pretty.
she sewed up
because she knows Aunt Katie can make anything.
Well,
right?
That's why I was like, I'll do my best, sweetie. I don't know if I can.
Yeah, but you delivered. So.
Well, she showed up to her birthday party, which was at my house. She showed up. The first thing she asked me is, "Where's my dress?"
Oh.
And I was like,
"Hello to you.
Why don't we wait until you open your present?" But they had like a Jolly Jumper water slide, which was like the most fun. So she really didn't care that I was, that she had to wait to open her presents because they were having the most fun. We had to like get them off of the water slide to come open presents and eat cake. It was
I love
a very
the
fun
shell
birthday
that you put on it. It really like.
So the picture, she had drawn a seashell on the front of it, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do that. Her mom has like a Cricut machine she could like cut vinyl and make iron-on and stuff. So I was like, backup plan, I'll ask Carrie to like make me a design. But when I was at Joann's, I looked at their like iron-on little appliques, and there was just like the perfect little seashell.
Oh.
It says "I'm a mermaid" on it, and I was like, "This is excellent."
Wow.
I just ironed it right on the front when I was done, and it was easy. Yeah. So
the dress is very cute, but that applique really sends it home.
It's hard to tell in the picture, but all of the fabric is also sparkly. So pink sparkle, purple sparkle, and then the teal for the sleeves is like shimmery, like shiny. Very Ameren. She loved it.
Very good.
Nailed it.
Yes, it was a big success. And it was faster than I thought because I was like, well, her birthday's this weekend. But I had like Tuesday a couple hours in the morning, and I was like, well, maybe I'll come to work on Wednesday. I don't have to, but I can like go to my studio. I got it done in like a couple hours in the morning.
Easy.
It was easy. I crocheted a market bag. This is the Sakura market bag. I keep wanting to call it Lotus, but it's not. It's Sakura.
Different kind of flower, Japanese flower.
Even though it doesn't really look like it's got a flower motif on the bottom, but that was fun and easy. It was I used Karin cotton cakes. I had one, like, it wasn't even a full ball of like a tealy green color.
I weighed it. It weighs 134 grams.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Someone wanted to know how much yarn.
It's like 275 yards the pattern calls for or something. Which is less than a ball of cotton cakes. So if you have one, it's perfect for that. But it was a fun pattern. It was fun to do the like flower motif at the bottom because I don't do a lot of like motif crocheting and like,
I love motif crocheting.
It's really pretty. Go ahead.
No, you started first.
Well, I was just gonna say, is that one that you were thinking of when we talked about summer?
Yes,
that's
summer
the
crochet. This is the one I recommended last month when we were talking about crocheting.
And then I went ahead and started making one myself. Except I'm at the handles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the boring part.
Yeah, so that's why it's living in Handle Island.
Handle Island. Is that in the same atoll as Sleeve Island?
Yeah, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump.
You take a little plane,
mm-hmm.
a little 6-person,
a little puddle jumper.
There, yeah.
I think it's going to be a class, so you can look for it on the schedule. But it was fun. I would make another one, and it didn't take me too long. It was a couple days. And then I have been quilting. So I made the baby quilt for for the person who is having a baby. I talked about it last month. Mm-hmm. And then I have a wedding to go to, like I mentioned, and I had a quilt that I wanted to finish for the wedding, but it's a bigger quilt than I have made on my personal machine before. It's not, I didn't look up how big it is. It's bigger than a throw. It's not quite like a bed size. But I wanted to practice my free motion quilting because it had been a while since I had done that. So I put together, this was one, I think it might have been not even a whole jelly roll.
It's really nicely done.
No, this was a fat quarter stack of like 6 different fat quarters. I got it Tuesday morning.
It's so springy.
It's like bright green and yellow with little butterflies, and so I did like a fence rail block, easy peasy.
I like how you did different things in different strips.
So I used each little strip to practice. Don't look too close at it because some of them are really ugly. But I practiced my
it looks really, really good.
It
looks really, really good.
Are you entering it in a quilt show?
No.
Okay, well, it looks good to me.
It's like a little baby blanket size. I don't know what I will do with it, but
Well, you're ahead for the next shower.
Yeah, so there's always another baby. But I got to practice the free motion quilting, which I had not done in a long time, so that when it came time to make the big quilt, I was able to do it a little bit more confidently. So this is...
I love those colors.
This pattern's called The Night Sky by Monica Jacobs. I think
writing that down.
One of those two. I don't remember. I could look it up.
That is gorgeous.
So it's big, 16-inch star blocks.
Awesome.
Each block is a white background with like a tone on tone, dark and light of a solid color, and these are all Kona solids. So it's like a maroon and a rosy pink. There's greens. There's like all different. Lots
I like
and lots
the
of
mustard
colors.
and the blues.
Perfect.
I made it. Well, I started it for me because I really, really liked it.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh, this would be a great wedding gift. But then I finished it. I'm like, I really want to keep it. But I already put a label on it that said who it was for.
Good job.
I will watch. I haven't watched it yet, but I finished it. The quilting took me 2 sessions to like sit down and do all the quilting.
That's really impressive.
It took me a long time to do the piecing. Like each block took a while. And I screwed up one when I was trying to like assembly line finish it all. I did everything backwards and I had to take it all out. But it's finally done, and the wedding is next week. Nice. So I'm not taking it with me because we're flying. So I'm going to mail it to them, I don't know, when I get back or something. But it's done.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
You should make yourself another.
Yeah. It's backed with like a white fleece, and there's no batting, so it's just fleece and the cotton, and it's
That's going to be so snuggly.
They have 2 doggies, so hopefully they will enjoy it. Aww. There's my crocheting on the floor.
Yeah, so like we have a lot of unused baby blankets. So like one temporary blanket for the dogs is something I knitted for Dante that he never was interested in. And then I had like another one that's sort of white, but it was a gift.
Nice.
And though we do not see the person who gave it to us in our lives, not just because they it think Kevin is still Facebook friends. And I just...
No pictures.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I would hate for there to be like it would be good that this like well-loved part of our family is using it.
Sure.
But I would just hate...
It depends on the person. Someone might be like, oh, I'm so glad they're using it. Or they might be like,
wow, you put it for the dog.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it was for Marabella, and she's 10 now. So
yeah.
But I'm like, I'll make them do things that are just for them.
Sure. Someone in my family is having a baby girl, which I just learned about a week or 2 ago. And as I was on a quilting kick, I found in my bucket of like half-finished projects
more
all
gorgeous
of these
colors,
half-square triangles that I had already made all the blocks. I had laid them out. I had not sewn like the blocks and the rows together, so I just sewed the blocks and rows together and added a border and quilted it. But I think it was just 2 charm packs of white and a pattern. And
that's amazing. It really yielded a lot.
Yeah, it was very easy. I just took, the 2 charms and made half square triangles out of them, so it wasn't hard. But I had already done all the trimming. They were all ready to go to be assembled, so I just assembled it.
Okay, I want to know what technique you'd use for your half square triangles, because they are the way that I would want them to turn out, which is on the grain line.
So I think what this was you take 2 squares and you put them right sides together, and you draw a diagonal line and you stitch 1/4 inch on either side and then cut it in half. Nice. I think that's probably what I did, because I know there's...
It's nice because then like you yield 2 of...
Because there are all these crazy ways to like mass produce half square triangles, and some of them just like don't sit well with me because your finished blocks are all biased.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but don't you know what will happen?
How many blocks you want to make?
That sounds like it's a good question for later in this segment, because I like to discuss that.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. I'll add it to my list.
Add it to your list. So yeah, this is just a easy. I think I'm gonna give it to the recipient. I haven't decided yet. I might put a little bit more thought into the project, but it's done. And it was I had like the perfect size scrap of batting.
Restate that. What? I might give it to the recipient,
or I might make something else for the recipient
instead of, or to go with.
I think instead of. I still like it, but I don't know. I made it with them in mind, but then I thought that it might be fun to work on something a little bit harder. I don't know why I think that.
I'm like, you have a finished object.
Well, the baby is not due for many, many, many months. Okay. So by down the line, if it gets closer to due date and I decide it's good enough, then it's going to be good enough.
I mean, it's really cute, so that's why I'm confused.
Yeah, no, it is very cute, and I really like it. But cool. I quilted it just straight line, quilting with my walking foot, and I didn't do anything fancy just so I could get it done.
Yeah, but it works. Sometimes, also I have opinions about over quilting.
Oh, I do too. I do too.
Yeah.
You can really kill a quilt with a lot of quilting. Yeah.
I've learned that the hard way.
So I think that's beautiful.
Yeah,
I mean,
so this is
doing the job.
This is one of my favorite ways to do straight line quilting because I hate doing stitch in the ditch because you have to pay too close of attention.
Oh yeah.
So this, I just lined my walking foot up with with the seam and went straight down, and then I lined up the other side of my walking foot with that seam and went straight down. So you just stitch on either side of the seam and it makes just like a grid pattern. So that was very easy. And one more quilt I finished, which is not here because James is probably using it right now.
Aww. Wait a minute.
4 quilts?
Wait a minute. Yes. It's July.
He's a very cold man. Also,
and he's probably in Fillmore, right?
So he likes to sit in his chair with a quilt on his lap because the cat really likes quilts. She loves she doesn't like fuzzy, like I have like furry blankets. She doesn't like. She really likes quilts, like cotton.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's a thing about that.
There is.
Yeah, so my mom and I used to joke that like it wasn't a quilt until the cat had walked across it, because like she'd lay her quilts out in the middle of the living room floor, and the cat would just prance across it. Yep. So there's some tradition, I would have to search hard to find the truth of it, where they would like hold the corners of the quilt, and to like when they were done with the quilt, toss a cat in the air on the quilt.
Nice.
Like remember the parachute?
Yeah.
But with cats.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hysterical.
So anyway, the idea that a cat prefers a quilt seems very right to me.
I really make the quilts for the cat because James will like fold it up and just put it on his lap, and then the cat sits on top of it. But I was gifted a bunch of fabric from a friend, and I found in this bin of fabric a panel with the Declaration of Independence on it, and also with it a yard or two of fabric with all of the president's faces on it.
Oh wow.
And James is also there was like half a yard of fabric with like Washington DC monuments and cherry blossoms and stuff.
Oh, that sounds
and James is like such a sucker for like US history and presidents and like trivia and all that. So I was like, oh, this is like right up his alley. And also it's 4th of July this weekend, so I like took the panel, I added some borders around the outside, like really quick and dirty. And then I quilted it. Like it took me like a day to make this quilt because I didn't really have to do anything for the top. It was like almost done, but he loved it. He was mad at me though that I didn't make Abraham Lincoln like front and center because that's his favorite president.
Okay.
I wasn't really thinking. I just kind of cut some strips and sewed it on. I was able to locate Abraham on the quilt. He's just kind of like off to the side, and he's like, he should have been front and center. I'm like, I'm sorry I didn't fussy cut Abraham Lincoln.
I'm sorry. I believe the words you're thinking of, honey, are "Thank you for making me this quilt."
He was like,
and that's it.
Because I showed him the fabric before I told him I was making the quilt. He's like, oh, I thought maybe you'd put like some cool like American flag fabric on it or something. I'm like, I'm sorry. Want me to take the quilt back? And I thought it was nice.
Then you're never getting it back because if it's in the like I have to do something to this pile. We just talked about that.
No, it's right there with the elastic bands that of the skirt.
Exactly. So that's just a little like throw blanket size that I made for him, really for the cat. But those are all of my finished things.
That's what you had a very productive month.
I did. Yeah. I have had fun. Quilting for me comes in like waves. So usually I get really gung-ho about it and then I give up, which is what happened with the big quilt. I was like, oh, this is great. I love it. I'll make it for me. And then I stopped.
It's so gorgeous.
Thank you. It was supposed to have a border, but by the time I was done, I was like, this is big enough and I do not care.
What would the border have been?
Just like a white strip around the outside.
Oh, no, it's
Yeah.
I wouldn't have added anything. I'm not a fan of white borders, honestly. I think
I probably would have
it would just get dirty.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's gonna get dirty anyway. It's white, but
there's something about visually to me, like I don't like white mats on paintings or drawings. Mm-hmm. Like I like something that stops the eye.
Yeah,
like a hard fast.
Yeah, white's too like spatially like floaty. You know?
Exactly.
I get it. I probably would have picked a solid color, one of the many in it, and like put that around the outside, but I didn't want to do any more work, so.
No, it's perfect.
Thanks.
Because I like you like use that soft, like that small calico print.
Mm-hmm.
It works well with the
It's actually
solids.
like if you look close, it's like free motion quilting lines, like little squiggly lines.
I can see that.
Which I thought mimicked the like actual quilting on the quilt. I'm probably the only person that will.
That's
the recipient will never notice that,
but those things are for you.
Yes, I found it in the stash and I was like, oh, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Karin, what did you finish?
I finished a sample for the potluck tote class, and I did the smallest one. It's got a wireframe, but the nice thing is the wireframe can be removed so you can wash it.
Oh, that's cool.
It's got like a casserole size and like a bigger size, like for your 13x9 type casserole pans.
Mm-hmm.
It's the idea that it's got foam, and you could put your casserole dish in. It's got handles so you can carry it and, and move it around. But yeah, so I made that, and I took some pictures. And how was the Queen Amon?
It was good. I always want it to be something different than it is.
You want it to be like a little sweet or something. Yeah. I photographed it this weekend.
Is so good.
It's got that nice.
But it's so hard to eat.
Is it just too flaky, too big, too?
Yeah, it's like, how do you get your mouth around that?
I think it's like a cinnamon roll. You just tear pieces off.
Yeah, that's what I kind of resorted to. But it was good, so thank you for sharing.
Well, I photographed it this last weekend with some great pastries from Cafe Ficelli. I mean, the picture is such that people might forget that it's about a bread bowl and just being. I had someone go, "All I want now is bread.
I know.
I just want bread, because it's." The pictures turned out really, really good, but I can't eat them because even I had like a chocolate croissant that I'm told was really kind of skimpy on the chocolate. Not much chocolate at all. The pain au chocolat was not very chocolatey. It was more like pan. Anyway, so I finished that. That's by the Fat Quarter Gypsy. I kind of have problems with that name. I don't know if that's, but I'm not going to tell someone, oh, the name of your company is not right. But
well, maybe she has Roma
That's
heritage.
the thing. Maybe she does.
Mostly, I don't think they call themselves gypsies. Just thinking of my sister-in-law, but
if you're in Romania,
maybe she does.
If you're in Romania, that's a slur, like the N-word. It's not a good name.
Yep.
But
I think through most of Europe it is.
Huh? Yeah.
I think through most of Europe it is.
Yeah. So I finished that, and then I finished the Deshane Tea by Leela Raven, and it was hanging. It was almost dry this afternoon, and so I tossed it in the dryer to just kind of get the rest of it out dryer.
Is it 100% cotton?
The one I did was 100% cotton, and so I kind of had to like stretch it a little bit because it fluffed and did dry. It did get the dampness out. Although it's so humid, I should have just left it damp and let my body dry it.
Hey, I want to say something about the what is the first project you talked about? What is it called again?
The potluck tote.
Potluck tote. That would be really cute, like as a sofa organizer too. Like if you're working on a project.
It absolutely would. It doesn't have to be
for a tray.
Yeah, it's a tray.
Like immediately, I'm thinking it's a project holder.
Yeah, you throw your scissors, your whatever, your remote control.
Because it's about 5. Well, actually, I know the dimensions. It's 6 by 14.
Yeah, it's really cute.
So you could throw like you said, you could throw your scissors, your threads if you're doing hand stitching. And it definitely holds up on its own. The only thing is it calls for a special kind of fusible foam that's fusible on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Only
Pellon.
It's not Pellon. It's like Bosol or something like that. Only I don't think it's really all that fusible. And since you have to stitch around it anyway, I'm like, you really don't need the fusible.
Yeah, I find that the fusible makes it look a little bit neater because, I mean, Pellon has a two-sided fusible foam that I have not had a problem with fusing, so I don't know if it's the brand, but it keeps it from, like, looking wrinkly, I feel like, if it's fused.
Okay, I could see that.
I guess if it's fused properly, because if it's hard to fuse, then, it can pull apart.
Ripples and stuff.
So,
I was reminded while I was sewing the shirts this weekend that one should press the pieces that they're putting whatever kind of interfacing on.
Yes.
Pre-press. Don't try to. Yeah, because.
No, the rumples are permanent then.
Yep. So, and so I got tired of my old iron not pressing things well. So I did get a gravity iron. And it looks like I've got a medical ginormous bag of water going down to my iron, but. Anyway,
an IV for your iron.
An IV for my iron. It's on an IV pole, actually. So, I like it. It's just a little smelly at first. Like anytime you get something new,
it's like a lot of ozone smell, or
No, not ozone like you get from like when something electrical is about to go out. Maybe just hot metal, which was not very pleasant at first,
like
but it seems to be
smell?
Yeah, kind of a mechanical
like
smell,
a machine shop.
But it seems to have worked itself out. So that was the potluck tote, and I really like the fabrics. You know, my Super Buzzy is like one of my favorite places, but I don't think I actually got it at Super Buzzy this time. I believe.
Well, I like Super Buzzy too, but sometimes I shop other places.
I believe I got that fabric at Fabric Town this time because I had a gift certificate because I was going to use it to buy for clothing and for fabric because I was going to make something, and then I'm like, I'm going to make it. I want to make it. Save it for this. So because
I bought green velvet. I'm going to make a green velvet dress someday.
Nice. Someday. But the other thing I did, like I said, I did the Deshane tea, and I had just enough yarn to finish.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the right amount then. Well, that's my favorite thing.
I wasn't quite sure if it would be enough, and it's not like I can get more because, I just got it like last year before the shutdown or at the beginning of the shutdown. And that's when this company has decided, I think I got it from Barocco, and they decided that they were going to discontinue it and a couple of other really great yarns. I don't understand why some companies choose to discontinue stuff.
Yeah, Barocco is not usually that like flippant about what they continue to produce. They tend to like have a yarn and they like once they introduce it, it's there for a while. Like some companies like Taki, like you could not trust that a yarn that you liked from them last season would be here next season.
Well, and just with my luck, just like any kind of a TV program that I start really, really liking, I only get into the TV programs like after it's like on their 7th or 8th season.
Because I have like trust issues too. Yeah.
So this yarn might have been around for a long time, but I didn't discover it until
it might be a couple years old.
It's like, well, now that I like it, you should just keep it around.
Oh, that's Trader Joe's products for me. Like as soon as I love something, it's gone.
Yep.
Do you remember their rosemary garlic rolls?
No.
They had these gorgeous rolls. This is back before I was celiac, and it had this. They were like steeped in this rosemary garlic butter, and as soon as you walked past them, you could just smell this gorgeous garlic rosemary smell. And you popped them like in the microwave, and your whole house smelled amazing.
Oh, that sounds yummy.
Yeah, and then they just continued it. Darn them.
There was a dressing I liked, like this amazing dill dressing.
Mm-hmm.
That was there for like maybe we got to buy it twice.
Do they still have their Chinese chicken salad dressing? I used to love that.
I don't know. We buy the goddess dressing. That's like the only one that we've been buying regularly. Anyway, we all know what Trader Joe's products we love.
Yeah.
When we were newlyweds, we used to go to a deli in the valley that had the best Chinese chicken salad. And we went there when we were dating. So it was and so when we found this dressing that tastes almost exactly the same, we just loved it. And then, of course, life gets busy and you have kids and you forget that, fussy people who don't like Chinese chicken salad get older and all of a sudden they like the food you make.
Oh, the fussy people who you made. Got it.
The fussy people I made finally like the food that I made. And of course, it's not the same without the magic of that special dressing.
That's a bummer.
So I'm on my last end to weave in.
You don't have to count. Like, wait for your ends to be woven.
It worked. No, you said I did.
Yeah, I was lying to you.
You did it to me again.
I mean, anyway. I even said I was BSing.
I didn't hear that part. You must have muttered that really, really softly.
Got it. Anyway, I was teasing you.
Okay. So the last thing that I am weaving my last end in on is a project I started 2 weeks ago, and I'm done.
Nice.
It's a really big crocheted blanket made with Knit Picks Wonder Fluff, which is, I just love that yarn. It's so fluffy. It's like little balls of kittens. I just want to make a bed and cuddle in it. And
you
I accidentally
have to feed them though.
You don't have to feed them. They don't get fussy and start talking back at you when you refuse to take them outside.
No litter box problems.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have to deal with that. We had an agreement when we got the cat that And they started to forget that agreement, and I said, look, you wanted the cat. I love the cat, but the cat and I have these issues over, and I already have the kids to take care of. You can take care of the cat. So
the agreement only works if the cat is in on the agreement, though, because my cat used to be, but all of a sudden she's lost her damn mind and has decided that she doesn't always know exactly what the rules are. So yeah.
Okay. So when the cat's mad, it's not because the other humans in the house, they may have forgotten to take care of the box, but it's my side of the closet that Felix decides to go pee in.
Oh, well, there you go.
Or my side of the bed, right where my feet go.
no.
And
Yeah,
that's on that's on purpose because they can smell where your feet
know.
land.
Yeah.
They know. Anyway, so I just finish this blanket, and it's
super cute.
It's actually pretty big.
It's big.
It takes 21 balls. Wow.
21 balls. Wow.
Well, 3 of each color.
Oh.
It takes 7 colors, and this is called the Saltwater Afghan by Toni Lipsey, Toni, and the last name is Lipsey, also known as tlyarncrafts.com. She has some great patterns, and she just came out with a cardigan, which I am kind of in love with.
Her Instagram feed is delightful.
And when she talks about stuff, I just want to tune the rest of the world out and listen to every word that comes out of her mouth because she is wonderful and smart and helpful. And okay, so I might have gone a little bit in debt buying these crochet hooks that she recommended because they are amazing.
They furls?
No,
they looked like furls. I didn't like.
They're not
furls. Didn't read.
They're not furls. They're not furls. I know what you're talking about. Well, she didn't know. This is before the furls.
Okay, because she just got some rainbow.
She just
furls,
got some
right?
rainbow furls,
and which furls are not for me.
They're not for me. Something about the way
the handle's not for me.
No,
okay. They're beautiful.
No,
though.
These have a super sharp head and hook. So it goes in and out, and it catches really, really nicely. And they're like
I gotta know the
stainless steel. Let me look up what
because that sounds like I love Susan Bate hooks because they have that kind of knife edge.
Normally, I don't like metal, but these metals are solid, man. Let me go to my email and figure out where did I pay for them. It was an unusual company.
Where did I pay for them? You bought them. I thought you might be going to her feed to look for the thing.
No, I'm going to my mail. Okay, I better go to her feed. But the thing is, it was a video, so I don't know if she. I better go to my feed. Anyway, but the thing I'm really enjoying are the knitting needles because they are really sharp and long tapered.
Ooh.
And then you can get
stiletto, perhaps?
You have your choice of tip length as well as they're interchangeables, but you have the crochet hooks are interchangeables, and you can buy the cables separately because you have your choice of length. And at first, I was kind of inept because I'm like, they did something wrong here. I can't get these cables in. They're 2 female parts. They don't go together. And they didn't realize at the very end of the crochet hook unscrews because it can be interchangeable or not interchangeable. I will find them.
Yeah, Karin handed it to me and said, "What's wrong with this?" And I was like, "Don't you just unscrew it?" And she's like, "Damn it, you figured it out."
But really, that's why she handed it to you.
I didn't. Well, I was trying to see if she could. If she would struggle like I did. I almost sent an email. But there's always those moments where you think, wait, before you hit send, look it over again and I've had a few times this week where I almost sent an email and I thought, I better look this over so I don't be one of those people. I'm looking at TL yarn. I can't even spell on. When you're trying to type something. There she is. Toni. And it must have been in her feed. Because I'm not seeing it now. Her, those really, really cool hooks. It was like Dyak Crafts. DYAKCRAFTS. And they're kind of expensive for a crochet hook, but it might be the last one I get. Well, I only got 2 sizes, so
yeah. I mean, if you really like
Come on now. That's like, if I buy this set of interchangeable needles, I'll never need to buy more knitting needles.
Right. Yeah, we know how that goes.
Oh, yeah, that's like saying, this is the
funny.
last yarn I'll ever need.
Well, you know that would be absurd, so I'm glad you didn't go there.
No, isn't this comedy night? Open mic night? Hey, are you out there? Ting, ting, ting. Yeah, so I just finished. Ta-da!
Woohoo!
And I love Wonder Fluff. Wonder Fluff tells you it's bulky. It's a lie. It doesn't matter if you're knitting it or crocheting it. It always works up to be worsted weight, not bulky. And people, it was not just me. I noticed. I read other people's comments about it, but it's still pretty amazing.
What's the yardage per ball?
Yardage wise, it's like 76. Of course, I had all these labels that I just threw away.
Well, to 100 or to 50?
Huh?
To 100 grams or 50
they're
grams?
50 grams. 50 grams.
And you said 70. Yeah, that's worsted. I mean, have Aran?
It's like a heavy worsted Aran, but
it's not bulky. That yardage is not bulky.
It's not bulky. They label it bulky, but it's not like a regular. It's very, very fluffy, but it's like a mesh. It's 23% nylon because that's the mesh tubing that the alpaca fibers are shot into, and 7% merino.
The Blue Sky Alpaca had a yarn
Techno.
constructed the same
Yeah,
way, right?
very much like
and
Techno.
they were marketing that like a bulky, and it was not.
No,
it was very happily a worsted.
And of course, the colors that I picked. You see, I've got a lavender here, and I've got a midnight and a beige. I mean, the rest of them are blue, but
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that, Karin.
Anyway, so
we know you like your color palette.
It's beautiful because it's only two. It's a lot of stitches, but it's only 2 rows over and over and over again. And after 9 pairs of rows, you switch colors.
Nice.
And rinse and repeat.
Yeah, she's a very cool designer.
Anyway, that's all I finished.
Well, for our topic today, we thought maybe we would tackle some unpopular opinions. So we are sort of framing it in the, for knitting, for crocheting, for sewing. Those were our, categories that I think we're going to sort of work through. It might be, a little bit more unstructured or, we don't know. And we don't know what each other's unpopular opinions are. So it might also spark some, other conversation as we go, but anybody have any unpopular knitting opinions? And we don't, I guess I should disclaimer, asterisk, we don't mean to offend anybody. If this is something you're a big fan of and we say we don't like it, that doesn't mean that we're right. You know what I mean? So I don't want anybody to feel... It's just a personal
opinion, not a judgment call.
Or if there's certain designers or whatever, we don't mean any, harm or whatever. It's just a personal opinion and it might be unpopular. So go ahead.
Charts are the best.
I love charts.
I prefer a pattern with a chart. In fact, if it's a pattern with a chart and no written words except the cast on,
I'm fine with that.
In.
I'm fine with it. I think a good pattern should have both, but if a pattern only has written instructions, it can get out of here. I'm not going to make it.
Well, yeah. How do you tell when you have a chart, and I hope this will speak to people who are scared of charts because it looks like jibber jabber.
Yes.
Once you decode what the chart's telling you, you can see exactly what you're supposed to knit.
It's a visual representation of what your stitches are doing, with the direction they're leaning, where they're going, if they've got intentional yarn overs for lacy holes.
And it's so much more jibber-jabbery to try and find my place on a line of text and numbers all. Yeah, no, I agree.
No. Give me charts.
Yes, all the charts. My unpopular opinion, which is not specifically knitting, it's just in yarn in general, is that people need to stop whining about finding knots in their yarn.
Yeah. Yeah.
People will, someone will be knitting, and they'll be like, oh, can you believe there's a knot? It's like, yeah, I can believe it.
Okay.
It keeps the cost of production down for yarn companies.
Yep.
How much waste would there be if there wasn't?
And it's not hard just to rejoin your yarn. It's another end, but you know what? I think it just comes from the fact that we used to work in selling yarn. that it's like, I don't really care, you know? Yeah. It's like, oh, there's like this yarn I'm using now is cheap. I found like 3 knots in one ball.
3 is the industry acceptable amount.
Yeah. I was told up to 5 is still is considered acceptable, but that rarely happens. But I mean, how many of us only ever do 1 ball projects? Right. You're going to have to tie on new yarn anyway.
Yeah. It's not as big of a pain in the butt, I think, as people tend to think it is, and I think people need to stop complaining about it.
You have to watch the dirty jobs where they go to a yarn mill and they show you why they knot it, because it will completely like shut down production for the day
if they have to stop.
If they
start.
That
just makes total sense.
Tie it back on when the machines have to stop.
Yeah,
like that's a great dirty jobs.
I'll have to look that up.
Karin?
For knitting, here's a question. Is there is there different ways of throwing your yarn? Is it acceptable to, because is it really hard and fast that you have to throw it counterclockwise, or is it acceptable to go clockwise?
Okay, well, clockwise and counterclockwise are directional things that do not make sense to me. So
okay, so what I do is I turn the tip of my needle so that it faces me and it's the center of a clock.
So
and how my yarn goes around it is either clockwise or counterclockwise.
Well, so I think standard would be counterclockwise, right?
Yes, but the newer generation doesn't do that.
So what did they do to get their stitches untwisted?
Their stitches don't twist because they're consistently...
Because they're purling.
Well, they would have to insert their needle the other direction in the stitch, wouldn't they?
Something about,
your knitwise and your purlwise have to, which is
well, I know people knit like combination, you know, so they
where the difference comes in is when they go to slip a stitch. When they slip it purlwise, if they have done it, because the pattern that I'm testing, one of the comments was all of these slip stitches are getting twisted, and it doesn't look like that in the pattern because you're telling us to slip them knitwise. But the designer did not take into account that the way, because she throws and a lot of other people throw clockwise. So when you slip it knitwise,
well, then she's knitting wrong.
I think I think
honest
there should
to God,
be a standard
I believe
for
that
how
she's
patterns
wrong.
are written.
Yeah, she's knitting wrong.
If she wants to knit wrong, that's fine because she knows how to compensate for that.
But she shouldn't be writing it that way.
But she's not alone that way.
That a lot of other people make to be a standard.
Then people, because
there needs to be a standard.
I purled wrong. I feel so. Oh, this is a good one, Karin.
Okay.
I feel so passionate about this because I learned to purl from a book, and the book didn't tell me the direction. So I would knit the correct way. I'm going to stand by that, the correct and the wrong way. And then I would be wrapping my pearls the wrong way. So we're all twisted. So then when I go back to knit, half my stitches were twisted and half were untwisted. Mm-hmm. I am a firm believer that there is only one direction. Because that's, go back to stitching, bitch.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The little guys sitting on the needle, right leg forward. If you wrap the other way, their left legs are sitting forward.
And it's fine if that's the way that you knit.
Oh, this fills me with rage, actually.
Okay, well, but there should be a standard for how patterns are written.
Yes.
Because then the majority of people who don't knit that way are going to be knitting wrong.
That's like Stacy Trock, who's a very successful crochet designer. She, and I did this a little when I was a new crocheter too. I don't think I was taught this way, but when I like relearned it on my own, I was going into my stitches through the back loop only. Mm-hmm. So her early designs, like they had that cool ridged fabric, and then people go to make her patterns and they didn't look like her samples because she didn't know that was a special.
She didn't specify that
she
should be.
She didn't know it was special.
There's an assumption that her way is the way that because if her way of doing it was the way that everybody she knew did it, she didn't know that it wasn't standard.
I think she was just looking at her own experience.
My response, I made a response in the question that said, when you slip the stitch, how you slip the stitch is not really where you're going to have the change. It's not the only way that you will have a change of whether your slip stitch is straight or twisted, but how you throw your yarn when you are making the stitch below it.
And how you insert the needle.
And how you insert. There's a combination.
There's lots of ways
there's a combination of things happening here. and when you need to make a note in the pattern that this is, if you really want this to be slipped knitwise, which most of the time
you slip purlwise unless it's a decrease.
That's the default. Yeah. It's the understood default unless you need to change the direction of it, it's very rarely that, it's only if you have in the case of left leaning decreases for the most part, or the intentional twisted stitch, that you slip something knitwise.
Mm-hmm. I can't find where that decrease rule is written down, because I learned that from Lois at like an embarrassingly recent time. Yes. But it made a big change understanding that.
But I think it's that so the rule is you always slip purlwise unless you're told otherwise, or in a decrease.
Yes. But I think that assumes that you have wrapped your stitch counterclockwise.
So which is the correct way.
So I think where that discrepancy comes from is that unless you're told otherwise, you are told otherwise if you read how to do an SSK. It says how to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't think that unless it's in a decrease is necessarily necessary, because if you actually read what the pattern says, it should say you slip it knitwise.
But
readings for suckers.
I understand.
But I don't, and this person is an American, so part of me would have said maybe,
she watched the wrong YouTube video to learn.
The majority of
something, or she taught herself.
The majority of patterns being bought today are using the U.S. method of instruction as a standard. Even whereas like in crochet, there's U.S. versus UK, but we can wait till we get to the crochet to talk about that. But so I thought that was interesting that because so many of her generation are wrapping it clockwise. And so they weren't getting a twist, because the way when they wrap it clockwise and they slip it knitwise, they don't get a twist.
Them this?
I think it comes from them teaching themselves.
Maybe, because
which
that's
I think is totally fine. Like,
yes.
Teach yourself to knit. I don't care. I'm not trying to like discourage anybody, but if you teach yourself to knit and then you don't knit around other people, which a lot of people don't, they're, especially this last year, if you learned to knit this last year, then you come and you show somebody your work. I remember Lois telling me, I remember asking, should I tell that person? They came in to show me a project and their stitches, all their purls were twisted. Mm-hmm. And I was like, should I tell them? She's like, I always tell people. Yep. Because otherwise nobody has told them.
How are they going to learn?
Yep. Yeah. But I don't want them to finish a whole sweater and then for me to be like, you did it all wrong. But if nobody tells them, then they don't know.
Yeah, no, that's how I learned I was doing my pearls wrong. I was making this huge sweater for my brother, who's a big guy, and somebody finally showed me it was wrong. Okay, but it was so much easier on my hands to not
do
knit that way anymore.
Yeah. My very first projects were socks. I knit every single one of those stitches through the back loop.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what they're doing,
which is
by going clockwise.
Yeah. Well, not...
Unless you're compensating for it.
They
were
on the next row. For it because their stuff was not getting twisted.
They have to be going into the stitches
differently
to undo
which they some people do. They knit with their, they knit one way and they purl inserting their needle a different way because they knit backwards or whatever.
One of my formative knitters does knit that way. But still.
And I had done one each. I had done pairs of. I did this for socks, and I did 9 pairs of one each of 9 socks. The first half of a pair of socks. And before Barbara of BB's Knits in Santa Barbara, she showed me, she corrected it. She said, show me how you're doing this. Because everything was, beginner tight knitter, plus yanking everything, plus twisting every single stitch.
Wasn't it also cotton yarn? Or am I
That was one of them. That was one, but most of it was...
How did you not cripple yourself in this story?
Well, my hands were super tight and crampy, but I also was...
This is what knitting is.
It was in the beginning because everything's tight, but the problem then was, okay, now I know the right way, but these have to match, so I have to do the other half the same way. But on future projects, I will then knit.
Yeah, that is a thing. Once you unlearn something like that, you got to finish the one project that way.
The problem with making things super twisty like that is that it does use up a whole lot more yarn. Now,
they're bulletproof.
For those socks, they lasted 7 years of wear before they got a hole. Those things could stand in the corner. They were tight, man. Fortunately, yeah, and I didn't know anything about gauge. That's a whole nother. That's a whole nother. That's a
different layer
topic
of
for another day.
So my question is: are there really hard, fast rules?
Yes.
Or
I think there should be.
There are hard, fast rules for some things and other things. Okay, so when we were at Anna Kappa, one thing I would tell people, because they were like, "No, this is how my grandmother taught me. This is how everyone in my family does." I go, "That is fine for the projects you're doing. I can see you're compensating." But know that as you grow as a knitter, there are some things where, for instance, when you do a left-leaning decrease or you try to knit through the back loop, that you will not get the desired look because of the way you're throwing the yarn.
I never understood why people knit backwards because they were like left-handed. It's like, that doesn't make any sense, and I'm left-handed.
Yeah, you should know.
Crocheting, I think there is a difference because the action is so different with the hook.
Yes.
But with knitting, you have a needle in each hand.
Yeah.
It's both-handed. It's not
I
left
understand.
or right.
You can put so I've met people who have to reverse everything.
Yep.
Because they're knitting from left to right instead of from right to left, and that is stupid. I'm
Yep.
sorry. It's just making your life so much harder.
Right? In the hundreds of people I've taught to knit, I can think of one person that I couldn't break of that idea. And I always bend to meet where you are, right?
Yeah.
But after that person, I made a concerted effort to just convince every lefty
it doesn't matter
that it's a two-handed pursuit. Each
just
hand
put your yarn
has
in your left
jobs.
hand.
Yeah. Or
they
just have two jobs. This hand does this thing. This hand does this thing.
The only application I can see for knowing how to go to left to right and right to left is doing entrelac.
Right.
There are places where knitting backwards is helpful, but not for everything.
Right.
You have to reverse everything.
Yeah. Or it's cool to know that. Yeah. Actually, it's in Maggie Righetti's book. It's Knitting Plain English. I think that's what it's called. Or Knitting Plain and Simple. Because she also has the crochet one that's the same title. She talks about that in her book when she was a beginning knitting teacher in Orange County, that she would teach everybody in every beginning knitting class to knit forward and then to knit backwards before the purl.
That's unnecessary. That's unnecessary. You're going to make people hate it.
Because that's how people did. The purl is a new invention.
Yeah, but
in knitting, if you track knitting textile, I read that somewhere. I think somewhere else or in the same segment.
I can see why, because if you were doing stranded knitting, if you're working the round stranded knitting, great, it's always facing you. But if you're knitting flat stranded knitting, trying to do stranded purlwise, you're kind of flying blind because you're not seeing the way the picture is laying out. I could see that's handy, but.
And I think that's why it's called stockinette stitch, because stockings are in the round and you mostly used to make stockings.
Yeah.
I think knitting backwards is cool to know.
Yeah, but it's not a way to live your life.
No.
Well, we should move on then.
Okay.
That
was a good question.
Any unpopular crocheting opinions?
Wait, I have one more thing to say about Karin.
Okay.
Which is very good. I like the way you frame it, that there should be a standard, because remembering one of my knitters who formed me, Barbara, she's an insanely good knitter, and she does knit in this strange fashion. So maybe Barbara is making her rounds and she's teaching all these younger people to knit, which I think would be wonderful because she really did some good things for my knitting. But she knew she was doing it wrong.
Yeah. I don't want to say wrong because it's working for them, but it's not standard.
It's not standard.
So
I like the way you frame that.
There should be a standard, and you can adapt
because knitwise is knitwise and purlwise is purlwise. Stitches sit to the right, right leg forward. And if you're not doing that,
I had people tell me that when being a thrower, that I was doing it wrong.
Which is
that
not
continental
wrong.
Was the only way to do it.
Well,
now,
it's
she was
the
European.
Better way to do it, but
it's more efficient.
I would disagree,
but it's the way you imprint. Imprinted on. I'm faster, and I can do it as a thrower. But I'm
a continental convert. I'm much faster as a continental.
But there's more than just those two,
right? Yeah.
There's Portuguese, and there's something else. Anyway.
Well, combination is a legit style, which is kind of what you've been describing.
Some knit knit with their knit English and purl continental, or vice versa.
Yeah.
It's hard to get. I guess you're going to average.
Row? That's what
I've always wondered.
When I tell people that's okay, because knitting in continental is so much more approachable than the purl stitches.
Yeah,
I've told people,
or even Portuguese is better for ribbing than I think it is than as a thrower. But I think it's like the baby duck. Whatever you imprint on first is usually what you connect with.
Possibly. I mean, because I learned to throw to start, and then
I think it's good to have multiple ways. Just like it's good to have multiple tools in your toolkit. Mm-hmm. It's good to know that as long as you know that you're still wrapping. Whatever hand is controlling the yarn, you're still wrapping all the stitches counterclockwise.
Yep. All right, let's move on to crochet.
Okay.
All right, Katie.
My unpopular opinion is I don't give a crap about crochet hook brands or what. Like, I'll crochet with anything, metal, wood, plastic. I don't care. But I'm also not as much of a crocheter as I am a knitter, and I'm very particular with my knitting needles. But when it comes to crocheting, I really could give a crap. I'm like, oh, this is a size H, it'll work.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I generally feel the same way, but I certainly have opinions. Like,
I have used hooks that I like a little bit better.
Yeah.
But if I'm not gonna buy a new hook if I don't have the one I like in that size.
Right.
I'm gonna use what I have.
Whatever hook I can
Whatever's
find.
cheapest, I really don't care.
Whatever hook I can find that lets me get started on the project. That's my hook.
Yep.
Yeah. But I don't care if it's metal. Some people have really strong opinions. Some people will only use hooks with handles on them, and I don't really like those.
I like those.
I don't care.
There's something about it relieves the pressure in my thum to have the handle, but then you get shorted on your shank length.
Right? I don't like a short shank.
No, I like a shank that really
a long shank.
Gets between the ribs.
The ribbing. There you go.
Sure. Oh, Okay. All right. Well, I have one to add on now.
Okay.
Crochet ribbing is a farce.
Oh, it is. It's fake.
Would rather I have knit the rib and then crocheted off of that. I have
designed a hat based off of that exact thing. No, crochet ribbing is fake and it's not real ribbing, but it looks like it and it sort of acts like it, but not 100%.
It looks like it, but
it's
it does
so
not
much
have
more work.
Well, there's different ways. There's the.
I've not met a way that's less work than just knitting it.
There's the strip.
Well, that's not fair because we are first and foremost knitters. But
I mean, there's
chronologically, I am first to crochet.
Me too.
Okay, so if I have to do crochet ribbing, I prefer front post, back post because at least I'm still working in the same direction.
Yeah.
I do not like where I have to do the strip and then I've got too many rows here or not enough rows there.
I don't mind that for a hat brim, but
because it's little.
Yeah.
But for a sweater,
it's not that big a
deal. Yeah, no, for a sweater,
I've done it for a sweater.
I do like the appearance of that better though.
Yes, it looks almost a lot more like knitted ribbing,
and it
really
a little bit
more than front post, back post.
It looks more like
to me
ribbing than front post, back post does. Because you get the little V's that show up in the front,
depending on how you're going into the stitch. Yeah. But no, I don't want to do that.
I don't mind doing it. I just don't think it doesn't look like ribbing.
And this is where I think we could have this world where you can have patterns that incorporate the best of both.
Right.
That's why it's good to know both.
Yeah.
But that's why it's good to know both. But we have too much of a culture where I'm just this. And it's like, don't say just. You can choose to prefer one over the other. But why not do both? Sometimes I like the lace.
Happy
I like the crochet
knitting
lace.
And don't care about crocheting, and some people are perfectly happy crocheting and don't care about knitting. So I don't think it matters. I wouldn't say you should. I think it's cool if you can know both because then, like I said, you can incorporate it. You can knit a hat band and crochet the top.
There's lots of designers that would like to write patterns that have knitting and crochet in them, but because I'd asked a publisher about this and she goes, they've tried.
I mean, then you self-publish a pattern. That's what I did. I have a hat with a knitted brim, and then you crochet the top of it. I also included a crocheted brim option because I know some people are just crocheters, but
or they're crochet only.
Yeah.
Did you have more unpopular opinions?
My other unpopular crochet opinion is that I hate magic circles.
I love them.
I love them. I just want to do an extra chain
I can make it really tight.
Chain. I hate
no,
it.
that magic circle goes nice and tight. Yeah. No holes in the center.
If I'm not doing it for a class sample, I never do it.
Ooh.
If it's like if you're double crocheting into it, I just throw in an extra chain stitch and then go into the chain. I don't care. Right. I don't like them.
Nope, I love them. I think they're beautiful. You can never get such a good tight ending.
I did it on this bag, but I remember doing it and thinking I hated it.
See, that's one of my favorite knitting.
What's the difference between the magic circle or just chaining one and doing everything into the one chain?
That's what I would like to know. No, I know there is a difference.
Isn't that basically a magic circle?
Yeah, but a magic circle you can cinch tighter, which I see the benefit of. Yeah. But I also can take my yarn tail and run it around and cinch it anyway.
True.
If I care.
Which is a point. I typically don't care. A ring.
I don't like doing a ring, like slip stitching and joining the ring together to make a ring. I don't like doing that.
I agree with. I don't like that either.
I'll just go into an extra chain stitch that makes it easier, but I don't like magic rings.
Okay,
that's my opinion.
You are unpopular at this table.
Apparently. So far, all of our unpopular opinions have been popular amongst ourselves.
Yeah, but not that one.
But not that one.
Do you want
that was a hot take.
Is that all your? That's all of your.
Those are my crochet ones. I only had 2.
So, why do people make doilies?
Because they're cool.
Cool for what?
For decoration.
You put it on.
Do you have a lot of doilies at your house, lady?
I actually do, but I live at my mother's house.
Did you make them? Yeah.
Well, but I would display a doily. Okay. I think doilies are cool.
I would tat a doily because that connects me to my grandmother, who was a great tatter.
Some earrings or tat.
What do you have against a doily? That's what I want to know.
It's clutter. Which not like I'm against clutter.
No. Okay. Here's my take on doilies.
Yeah, but it's not no. I don't have clear enough spaces to add that clutter.
Doilies were the first coasters.
Oh my God! You're putting your teacup or your coffee cup on a tatted doily?
Yeah.
What kind of monster are you?
It's beautiful and
That's why
practical.
They make them white so you can bleach them.
Or you get these really beautiful ombre in blues.
I have always wanted to make a doily because I think it would be fun. I've not done it because it's tiny.
Remember there was that one in the bathroom at Anacapa?
Yeah.
That was so cool. And Lois made that. It was tiny, tiny stitches.
When I was making the bottom of this this bag with the flower pattern, I was reminiscing about how much when I first learned to crochet, I really wanted to make a doily. And I should do it because I could. I just have never done it.
Do it.
That's an unpopular opinion at this table. Yeah. I like doilies.
I like doilies.
Oh, I'm unpopular, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We have a big doily, we used to have a big round coffee table, and the doily was huge, and it like covered the whole top of the coffee table, and I really liked it. Yeah, it's like a tablecloth.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've got my.
It's not my fault you don't have horizontal surfaces
that are clear enough to put doilies on.
I also do not have those horizontal surfaces, but if I did, I would put a doily on.
There you go.
And then my doily would get covered in crap.
So just why don't we skip to the crap and just put the crap on the surface.
I like knowing there's a doily under
there. To edge or not edge your finished crocheted objects? I don't see the point.
Depends on what it is.
It depends on the stitch.
I've met some crocheters who were like, it's not finished if it wasn't edged.
This thing that I just finished does not have an edge, doesn't need one.
No. Then the designer didn't have one either.
I feel the
she's a really good designer.
But this other one that I'm working on that I forgot to talk about earlier, it does have an edge.
I feel the same way about borders on quilts. Some quilters say that they need to have a border. But I don't think that that's true. And so adding a border essentially to Karin's stripy blanket would change the look of it.
Yeah.
Here's my feeling about quilts and borders. If I have sashing between my blocks, then I'll put a border. Okay. If I don't have sashing between the blocks, then putting a border may take away from. I mean, if I have sashing, then it's like those blocks are floating.
Yeah.
But if I don't have sashing between the blocks, and I want, then having a border could take away from that. On the other hand, if I over trimmed, because I'm told I have a tendency to over trim my blocks to keep them super square, and then they end up way smaller than the designer usually ever. Then to kind of cheat and get it back up to size, I'll add a border.
Mm-hmm.
But borders are where I learned not to quilt the bejeebers out of things.
Well, that's a sewing unpopular opinion we could talk about.
Yeah, when we get there. Sorry.
That's okay.
Still doing crochet.
As these naturally come.
Yes.
Those are my crochet opinions.
Okay, so I don't have an unpopular opinion, but I was looking up different types of crochet. Because I know we usually do, when you see patterns, it's UK versus US as far as terms. Because if you try to follow a UK pattern and you only know US terms, you're not going to come out with the same.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Even though it's English, it's like a whole nother language.
Yeah, it's 2 countries divided by a language, right?
But when I was looking it up, there's German crochet, there's Japanese crochet, there's Lithuanian, there's Spanish, and I wonder how, it's more of an observation or a curiosity, not an unpopular thing. But I always wonder how, like when I tried to look up Japanese knitting, there is a different approach to it, but I haven't actually seen any books translated into English that talk about.
I have a Japanese crochet book.
I have Wendy Bernard's book of Japanese stitches, but honestly, I don't see what makes them Japanese because her stitch dictionary is like any stitch dictionary. It's not necessarily talking about the Japanese approach to, and I wanted to get a Japanese book but they're kind of pricey. You have to save up for it.
So Japanese knitting is all based on charts, right?
Yes, and if you're a visual person like I am, I love it. Japanese modern crochet.
Ooh. Wonder.
Yeah. Didn't Wonder. You made something in this.
I'm working on something. It's a really cute book. Oh, hey, there's my key. So it's Japanese Wonder Crochet, a creative approach to classic stitches. So I mean, they're not different stitches in just looking at Japanese knitting and crochet. It's the same stitches that we're all doing, but just like Japanese quilting is like highly refined and like very attracted to.
There's a different approach in the methodology of how they make the stitches. I think, at least in hand sewing, there's a different.
But I haven't observed that in knitting.
I think knitting
and crochet.
Is knitting. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the things that are appealing tend to have like a universal thread of that intricacy. And like like amplifying the simplicity or like amplifying the design within the stitches maybe. Just like
hold that up again. Japanese, I know they can't see it, but I just want to look at the cover.
Japanese well, you can flip through it. Japanese quilting, they are some of like culturally that is a really intense and precision quilting culture, and tiny highly intricate patterns are appealing to quilts that come out of Japan. So I think that's sort of, if you flip through a Japanese knitting book, but this crochet book is super fun. I'm making a scrappy squared kind of puff stitch afghan from it. Someday it'll be finished.
Someday.
Oh, I see. The difference then is because you're right. There's nothing here that really looks at where I look at it and I go, oh, that's different. That's Japanese. It's like, no, you're right. Most of their information is graphic. Schematics, stitch charts, illustrations.
Aesthetic,
yeah. That's what I think.
They have a specific aesthetic, but
look at pretty much. See, one of the things I like about motifs is you get almost this little bit of fiber art. It's like a picture, usually a round picture that you can't necessarily. It's not work the same in knitting. As it does with crochet, but I don't like to make a bunch of motifs and have to sew them together later. So I do like the method where you make a motif and you make a second one and you join them as you go. Their charts are different. Wow.
Okay. I like the mandala style afghans because those look really fun to make. But I don't get just making the mandala. I think it's adjacent to doilies.
Well,
anything else in crochet? Have we burned all our crochet bridges just now?
I can't think of any until we stop recording. Then I think I'll probably come up with more. But we can move on to sewing / quilting, I guess.
You may go, Katie.
I don't care about fabric designers. I care about, as people, sure, but like I feel the same way about wearing like labels for clothing where it's like I don't really care if I think some people are like super devoted to specific designers, and if I like one of their prints, then yeah, I'll use it, but I'm not going to make an entire quilt or something all with the same designer's fabric just for the sake of using all of the same designer's fabric, unless the aesthetic works and I like all the color palette together and I like all of the fabrics. But I really don't care about a name or a brand.
You would mix out an Alice in Glass with a Tula?
I don't even know. So. I don't even know what that would mean.
I'm not sure about that, Karen.
Or Karen Friedlander?
I don't know fabric designers apparently either, and I don't care.
I've seen you be very drawn to Caroline Friedlander's fabric, just probably organically.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. She's graphic. A lot of those hills.
Lots of herby type
stuff.
Okay,
yes. Yeah.
The boob hills?
Yes, they look like, it depends on if you put it right side up or upside down.
And then I've seen like a few others.
Yeah, I like her. Okay, then I like her aesthetic, but
so
I don't know who that was.
You didn't know. I think the one that stands out to me is Tula Pink, because she's such a like cult of personality, really.
Yeah.
And she does a really good job of marketing and persistently presenting her brand as her thing. But yeah, generally I don't care.
Sometimes I feel about Tula Pink the way I feel about Stephen West. Okay. Sometimes I like her stuff. Sometimes I'm sort of, it doesn't appeal to me.
That's okay.
That's okay.
It's a lot sometimes.
That's what, yeah,
but you know how some people are about Stephen West? Everything. Exactly. Next pattern.
One
of
my unpopular knitting opinions was about Stephen West. So I understand.
Yeah. I mean, I stopped doing...
Wait, was that explicit? Did we do those yet?
No, we did knitting, but
yeah, we started with knitting.
Yeah, but did you express that opinion?
No, I had a couple I didn't talk about, but that was one of them that I did not express.
Got it.
Now you know.
So.
No, I mean, like I like Tula Pink. I like her design aesthetic. I can find it pretty jarring when people make like 100% Tula Pink quilts, where it's like all in the same color palette. Like it kind of hurts my eyes a little bit. So I like mixing and matching. I like one of her fabrics is like a focus, but some people will like are very,
I like what Anne says. Your eye needs a place to rest. And some of her blenders are helpful, but there's still, she fills every space.
Yeah. Like
even if it's really subtle and it looks like a blender, there's still a lot of.
Okay. I've seen like stack and whack kaleidoscope quilts all in Tula Pink, and it's like my eyes are gonna bug out of my head.
Yeah, she designed her most recent line of fabric to appeal to the motif quilter, and I want to make clothing out of her fabric. And so there's like this rose that I really like, that they're only dripping from one salvage to the other.
I bought that one.
Yeah.
It would be the one.
How do you use that?
Yeah.
My yardage that way? Because normal layout
would be
the other way. And I'm going to have to know the dress really well, whatever I make out of it, so I know how the layout would work with it, and I don't know what dress that's going to be, and it'll be out of print by the time I get back to that idea.
Yeah.
And that'll be okay, honestly.
Yeah.
I will say the only designer whose fabric line I have cared about is Anna Graham, who's Noodlehead, because I love all of her patterns, and then she designed Forage is her fabric collection. And I think she's done at least 2 by now. And
Is that the one that's in Essex linen?
Yeah.
Oh, and yeah. I love that stuff.
And I've bought many of them because I really like her designs.
Something that I find happening is there are some artists that take their art to fabric design, and then I'm really excited about that.
Like Juicy Juice does that, I think.
I'm thinking of Helen Dardick, who's an illustrator that I follow on Instagram, and she has quite a few cute prints.
That's cool.
That I've been excited. I'm like, I just saw you showing me that piece of artwork in your feed, and now I'm seeing it at the fabric
store. And then you can wear it.
Have a whole dress out.
Yeah, wearable art is awesome.
Yeah. So I've organically kind of fallen for that times.
Well,
any other sewing?
That was, I think, the only one I wrote down.
Might be controversial.
Good.
I think we should.
The better.
I think we should vote after each one if it's unpopular or popular. So
this is stills with garment, and so I know
she's Anne's trying to make eye contact. I'm looking away from her. Okay, what?
When making darts, is it really important to tie the ends at the end, or can you just back tack at the tip?
So do you think that I'm choosing the easy way? Or do you think I take the time-consuming, thoughtful way? Which one, Karin?
I don't know, because sometimes you surprise me.
I've been sewing for 30 years.
Back tack, baby, right?
Tie the knot.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Tie the knot.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You surprised me.
Uh-huh.
The easy
what do
way,
you do, Karin?
I back tack.
Uh-huh.
It's easy.
I don't know what you're talking
Okay.
about.
Okay. When you're taking in like when it's a bust dart, or it could be at the waist
I have
or
done
something.
a bust dart.
Yes.
So you go from the wide end down to the tip, right?
Okay.
Yes.
You're technically.
I've sort of been starting at the tip and going out.
You're supposed to
tie a double knot.
At
the bust point side.
At the bust point.
Why?
Because you'll never ever. This is more important in like negligee.
Like you finish the seam, you just sew off the edge, and then you tie your ends together.
Yes. Yeah.
Why?
Because you can never sew exactly back on that line, and so it creates bulk.
It'll bulk, and
it puckers a little bit.
Yeah, it doesn't like this.
So if you tie the knot, which just takes seconds extra.
See, but the easy way is back tack.
Yeah, but tie the knot. I mean, Karin, try it.
It is easier just to I get the concept of,
but try it next time.
To just sew off and just tie them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Try it next time.
It doesn't seem hard.
But it is more.
It's just a step
thoughtful.
I have to remember to do.
Yeah, it's like a mindful choice.
I have to go. Yeah. And since I am being more mindful in my garment sewing, I'm more likely to do it. But
yeah, tie it, press that dart, see what you think of the difference. It's nuanced. Okay. It's very nuanced. But
if you back tack badly, that's not nuanced.
Right? And because I'm all about fast and dirty. So
that's what
I'm
I thought.
Happy I surprised you.
So I'm like, wait a minute. I'm very confused. I was pretty sure she would be
I
like
this
me.
Was a trap where you're going to be like, oh no, the only right way is to tie it, Anne. Look at you, fast and dirty again.
I had a feeling you would say tie it, though. That's why I'm like, because I thought this is.
I mean, I don't want to self-diagnose with something I don't understand, but I'm sure I have oppositional defiance disorder.
And here's a question for Kaity.
Okay.
Labels on quilts. Are they really necessary? Are they necessary?
Oh, necessary is different.
It depends on the quilt.
Are they helpful?
If it's a gift, then yes, I think it's nice. I know people talk about like I like my grandma will put a label on every single quilt, even if it's for herself, which I understand the point of, because it's like, well, maybe, after I die, someone will know who made it. I'm like, sure. But I'm like, chances are your family's going to be the one that has the quilt and is going to remember it. If you're giving it as a gift, I think it's nice as like I have a quilt my grandma made for me for my wedding, and it says like, congratulations, the date from grandma and grandpa, and I really appreciate that. But if I'm like, in both of these quilts, the big wedding quilt has a label and the baby one will have a label. The other baby quilt has a label. I think it's important if it's a gift, but if it's for myself, I don't label them.
Did you figure out what pen to use?
I used a Sharpie.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody.
I researched it because I was like, I've used Sharpies before, and the label's still. I've watched it, and half of the internet says that's okay, and half of it doesn't. Says it's not. So I'm just gonna do it.
Yep. Sometimes you just got to use your own experience.
I also didn't want to go buy anything.
Yep. Ding ding.
So I used a Sharpie.
Hey, you're putting a label on there anyway. You're going an extra step. That's good enough.
Have you thought about using your letters to stitch it?
I've done that before, but it's not very neat. Oh. I did that on the green baby quilt that I made. The one that I finished last month. I used my letters on my machine that it stitches, but it's not super neat and tidy.
She's got a fancy machine.
I've had 2 machines that do that, and I've never used it on either machine.
It's fun, and it's not hard to do, but it doesn't look super neat and tidy. Because it's not an embroidery machine.
I will speak with my mom's voice for a moment about, because she labels every single quilt as well. And this might be your grandma's, well, and maybe not. Because my mom really views her quilting as her art, as a fiber artist. So as an artist, every artist
signature
signs their work. So she treats it as signing her art, and she labels every single quilt. Perhaps she does like a big donation every winter to to like a baby shower, and I don't know if she labels those. She might not label those, but every single other quilt for herself, for a wall hanging, for gifts, she labels because she sees that as her art. And it's nice for quilts. Like if you're ever going to have a quilt valued, it's nice to have that. What is that called? When you can like follow the line of where it came from.
Right. I know.
Yeah, but the quality of my quilting is not good enough to be.
You don't know that. Like, I mean, do you really think the women who are making quilts in, the turn of each century in the American frontier were just trying to keep their families warm and add a little beauty to their world?
There is a historical thing for that.
Are priceless, you know.
You
never know.
Part of me worries that it's like the thank you note. Writing it is like certain things make it obligatory to do a thank you note, whereas I feel like a heartfelt thank you spoken should be enough.
I also think that it is easy to devalue your own art.
Yeah.
So if I don't view my quilting as art because I don't do anything that fancy, but it's a beautiful thing that I made, and I can say it's a beautiful thing that I made. It wasn't as hard or as difficult as like a beautiful quilt I've seen at a quilt show or something, so I don't consider it art, but somebody else might.
The one you made for a gift. That's quilt showable. Another one.
Yeah. The quilting's not great. I wouldn't look that close at it, but the fact, I think it's easy to devalue yourself.
I'm looking at your quilting, and I think it's really beautiful because you did not there's enough of the puffiness is still alive in it. So
that's, I guess, something else we could talk about, which we've touched on, is over quilting.
Yeah.
Some quilters will quilt the hell out of a quilt, which I can understand. If you really love the quilting aspect of it, it can be fun, to do that. I don't love the quilting part of making a quilt. It's not my favorite part of the process. So I try and get through it as fast as I can. But I also don't like the feeling of a really, really heavily quilted quilt.
Yes.
Yeah,
I like a puffy, comfy quilt.
Yeah, the quilt that I made for my husband is not as puffy as the one I finally made for myself because I learned not to over quilt it.
Yeah,
his has got so much stitching; it's condensed,
stiff. Yeah,
and it is kind of stiff. I mean, we're hoping that time and a lot of washing will soften it.
Yeah,
but it's been a couple years and it hasn't a few years now. Hasn't happened.
I usually will make a quilt top, no batting, with fleece on the back, and just lightly quilt it, and they're the comfiest quilts because they're really drapey and they're not heavy because we live in Southern California and you don't need a quilt for warmth usually.
No,
it's comfort. Because my understanding historically of why quilting is a thing is that batting, there's a name for in modern batting, the layer of the batting that keeps it all together, and they didn't have that.
Right. So it was more important.
So you were quilting,
to keep the layers together.
And we don't.
So you didn't get lump, like you didn't wash it and get it all lumpy where it shifts. If you've ever had a pillow that shifted.
Being in the modern world, we don't have the
It'll
need
stay the way
to
that
keep the batting together.
Right. I've learned that a lot of the things that I have learned from older generations of people that I was told are rules are not actually rules.
Right?
They're not. I love my grandma dearly, and I don't know if she listens. If you do, Grandma, I love you dearly.
Yep.
But there are some things that she taught me as absolute hard and fast rules about quilting that I was like, but I don't know actually. Like she taught me how to bind a quilt, so you never sew. Like she taught me how to you sew it on the front and then hand stitch it on the back. Every one of her quilts has been hand stitched. Like the binding has been stitched.
It does look a little better, but it's a lot of work.
She made me do it that way, and then I remember asking her, I was like, "Can you teach me, please, how to not do it this way?" And so I never do that anymore. I found a way that I really, really like to do it. My cousin, who learned from the same grandma, was like, "Can you teach me how to sew it on with the machine? Because Grandma taught me to do it by hand, and I really hate doing it that way." And I was like, "Yes, I will show you how to do it that way." So rules, I don't think are rules.
Yeah,
everybody Some rules. Has... I mean, I say that we were just yelling about how dinners should have rules. I guess we're not super consistent.
Look, you are not disintegrating the atoms that make up the earth with this idea.
Right. I guess that's true.
So I learned the hard way that beautiful quilting that you load up on there looks beautiful until you wash it.
Well, and then everywhere, yeah.
Well, no, what happens is, all the puckers completely take away with all the beautiful patterning you laid in.
You wash a quilt, it gets all wrinkly, and then that's what it looks like.
Okay.
And you can't see it.
Okay.
Now, I'm washing this last one that I've worked on. I wash the fabric first, so that when I go to do the quilting, it will not be as crinkly. But also, I'm not going to over quilt it because it will at some point get crinkly eventually. Yeah. And then all the
cotton always shrinks a little bit more.
Because nothing's more disappointing than to lay all those beautiful patterns and then.
Yeah, but I don't think a quilt looks like a quilt if it's nice and flat. I think it needs to be a little poofy, wrinkly.
I agree. It needs to be poofy and wrinkly, but if you over quilt it, all those beautiful stitching lines and designs you put in are lost.
It's like knitting a really complicated pattern with a multicolor yarn.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
It's not worth it.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
If it's a really basic pattern, if it's a big graphic block where you have a lot of room for quilting designs, then go for it. But if it's a really intricate, like, quilting block or really tiny pieces, then, like, what's the point?
Yep.
What's the point?
That your comment about pre-washing your fabric, what do you guys think? Pre-wash or don't pre-wash?
I don't pre-wash for quilts because it's cotton and I know it will shrink
no matter what you do.
It's gonna, and if I'm putting different things together, it's probably fine, especially if it's been quilted, because it's gonna hold together. For a garment, I will pre-wash.
Yeah, I think you gotta treat the fabric the way you're going to care
I probably should pre-wash all of my fabric, like some people do, but I don't.
Well,
except
it's so
pre-cut pieces.
Can't do that,
exactly.
And they're not pre-washed.
I know people that do that, and then you lose.
And just turn to shreds.
Oh god,
yeah, shreds.
Like a jelly
that
roll?
sounds like that's like the 7th layer of hell.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
and I've also never made a quilt with pre-cuts that has done anything bad.
Well, I think there is something to say about, like, if you're gonna do one thing, do it consistently. Like, if you're not a pre-washer,
don't pre-wash anything.
Don't pre-wash anything.
I read somewhere once, because I use a lot of fleece as quilt backings, that fleece doesn't really shrink.
No.
So I don't pre-wash that. I don't pre-wash my fabric. Nope. I just make it, and there you go.
I've been trying really consistently to pre-wash my garment fabric a lot lately, because I put it on my Instagram. I pre-wash 4 different colors of Kona, and they all shrank at different rates.
Yeah.
And one was, like, very significant, like, lost at least 2 inches across the whole
You've got a really nifty trick for that to minimize.
I think I picked this up from Tabitha Sewer, that you should serge the ends or zigzag the ends, and that makes a big difference in when you pull it out of the wash. You haven't lost, like, a ton off each end because of the strings.
I've done that for, like, Essex linen, because I know that's gonna
shred. I was bold this weekend, and I because I was combining a pre-washed cotton with one I just bought on Saturday night, and I didn't have time to do that, so I threw them all in the wash. And I guess if you don't overload the load, that would be, like, another helpful thing. I only had 4 pieces of, like, 3 yards each.
So I had room to kind of relax and not panic.
I love when you pull it out of the washer and it's in one big lump.
Oh, God. That's what the jelly roll monster would be like. Oh, my God. I'm going to have a nightmare tonight about
every single piece would need its own little lingerie bag. Oh, gosh.
I love that idea.
You would need 42 lingerie bags.
Now you should be pre-washing your jelly rolls.
Yeah. No, that's a lie. Don't listen to that.
See how that works for you.
She's kidding, folks. She's kidding. Don't do it.
Okay. Are jelly rolls a ripoff for yardage?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're paying for the convenience of someone curating lots of fabrics for you and cutting it for you.
They're expensive, though.
So is that worth twice the cost of the yarn?
But Jenny from Missouri Star Quilt Company is the one who came up with that. Pre-cuts are a more modern thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I love a pre-cut, but they are expensive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I like finding them on sale or at
Tuesday morning. I wouldn't call them a rip-off, because there is something to be said about not having to do all the work to curate all the, because typically a jelly roll is just one of each in a fabric line.
Maybe 2. Yeah.
it's not like they're picking and choosing from lots of different fabric lines.
They just gave you the whole fabric line.
Right, which is cool. But...
Okay, that meant that I didn't have to go and pick out 10 to 12 fabrics on my arms and have someone cut it for me.
Yeah, I understand.
But there's a lot of charm in overloading a basket in a fabric store and taking it up and then spending 2 hours at the cutting table.
Waiting for them to cut it.
You get to know your cutter at the fabric store and no? Okay.
I pre-order it at Super Buzzy and she tells me when it's ready.
I do think it's worth the convenience.
Yeah.
But come on now. Like
it is expensive.
$40.
Yeah.
It's for
40 strips.
$2.50 a strip. Maybe 3 yards, not even 2.5 yards. I'll bet on average.
Yeah, I'd have to do the math.
It's if it's 80. No,
they're
it's
2.5 inches wide, and they're 42 strips in a roll.
Sometimes only 40.
So it's 3.
I'm always
3 yards. It's 2.9.
So you're paying about $15 a yard for something you might spend 10 to 12 per yard.
Yeah.
But the labor of having it pre-cut and curated,
that's for that.
Yeah.
Those are like laser cut or die cut.
That's true.
So I'm not that impressed with the work.
That's true
but I appreciate that it's not work I have to do. Yeah, like I do appreciate that. Did you know Super Buzzy will do custom die cuts for you of like a ton of fabric?
I did not know that.
I can't see a reason I'd need it because I don't quilt that much, but it's pretty cool.
I know they did that for like if you had triangles or hexes or other kind of things. Yeah. Like if you're doing other kind of piecing. But
well, we should wrap this up. Any other pressing?
Karin had an opinion about something that confounds me, so I'm just going to bring this last one up, which was what? What is your magic way to make your half square triangles? Because a lot of them end your blocks up being on the bias instead of on the grain, and that just makes my garment sewing brain explode.
Yeah.
You said you had an opinion.
Oh, I forgot of it.
Okay.
I tend to do...
I was going to say, I already told you the way I did it. I don't know why you're looking at me.
I tend to do those kind of things. If I have to do triangles like that, I either super starch ahead of time.
But starching washes out.
No, but when you starch your fabrics before you cut it, the cut is cleaner and it helps hold that bias from stretching.
When you sew it. But when it exists?
I think you're concerned about something that's not a concern in quilting as much as it is in garment sewing because the pieces are so small and they're juxtaposed against pieces that aren't necessarily also on the bias.
But if you made that whole quilt in certain constructions of bias,
I do the
magic. I understand.
Yeah. I'll put the squares together and do 2 at a time because that is more stable than making a lot of. I will not do lots of triangles unless I'm doing it on paper, like paper piecing, where the paper stabilizes the bias. But I tried to do a crazy quilt, and I knew nothing about quilting, and it is crazy because it puckers all over the place because I didn't know about angles and bias. So if I have to do...
Wait, were you free piecing a crazy quilt?
Yeah.
You always have to foundation a crazy quilt. Foundation fabric is usually
Here's something that's really going to really mess up with your mind. I was piecing it next to old flannel sheets that I'd cut up.
Oh, that's fine.
No. These were used sheets.
I still think that's fine. That's what quilts are made of, used fabrics.
Yeah.
Like the quilts at your
I'm not talking backing. I'm talking mixing cottons with...
Oh, there's nothing. Especially in a crazy quilt. That's where it gets its name.
Oh, yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But,
no, failed to offend me.
So I will do the 2 at a time where at least it's not when it's being sewn, it's not being sewn on a bias.
Well, it is being sewn on a bias.
Kaity described as the 2 at a time, but when her blocks were done, the edges of the blocks are grain.
Oh. It's not just where you cut them like sideways and then the edges of the blocks are biased. Yeah.
So it's not just the edges that matter. It's the way the fabric.
To me, a lot of that has to do with the pressing. When you open it up and you press it.
Anne's concerned about after the fact.
Yeah, like when you have this quilt finished and it's all biased.
Oh, see, I would have to finish more things and wash them to find out if it's going to...
Okay. Because all I can imagine is like a biased dress.
But the quilting holds.
But it's quilted onto a solid backing.
That is on the grain.
That is on the grain. And
that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's as big of a deal as you think it is.
Because the quilting stabilizes. Think about that free motion.
So maybe you should quilt the hell out of it.
Free motion is
that.
If
maybe that. Yeah.
Based block, then yes, I would quilt it more.
There you go. All right.
I mean, and if I make a mistake,
I'm
just going to add more
things.
When I make a mistake, I just add more quilting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like Kay Fawcett, add more colors.
Yep.
You don't think your colors go together? Add more.
Throw in one more.
Maybe not. Yeah.
Oh, I don't really like his design aesthetic, but I love that idea.
There's a man who I can't follow all his there's a guy whose fabrics lines I don't adhere all the way to because
some of them are
just
butt ugly.
No
yeah. I mean, let's just say it.
I understand.
It's just too much psychedelia.
Oh, I don't mind that. Some of them are like gorgeous.
But some of the color combos are like, ugh.
Yeah.
I don't mind
work together.
I don't mind the color combos if I have a solid near it to rest. But when you have print on print on print on print, I'm just like, I'm so tired. And I've only looked at it for 5 minutes.
So tired. That's what I want a finished object to make you feel. I'm so tired.
Well, I think we have successfully
that's enough.
Expressed our unpopular opinions.
Yeah.
Well,
and they're only our opinions.
Yes.
Well said.
Grain of salt, right?
Yes. A bag of salt. Sprinkle it everywhere.
Do you have any obsessions to talk about?
I have an obsession.
Karen has one. You can go first.
Yeah, let's do it.
Usually it's like,
Fake Doctors, Real Friends podcast.
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
Oh, wait, it's Scrubs, right?
It's Scrubs!
Yes, that is a very good podcast. Kevin listens to it more than me, but yeah, it's good.
Their most recent one, they had Sarah, who played Elliot, on there. Okay, so I did not know.
You're a first name basis. Okay.
Yeah. I did not catch on because when I first started watching Firefly Lane, I didn't know who she was.
Oh.
She plays on.
She's second Becky. From, Roseanne years.
She was on Roseanne?
Yeah, she played the second Becky. And then when they brought it back, they have they honor that by giving her
So she's
a role.
A child actress.
Well, probably teens.
Teen.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, so
Anyway, carry on.
Because we discovered Scrubs. We love Scrubs.
Wait, this is new to you? You're so lucky.
I know. Well,
I'm so happy for you.
I know. We're 20 years later.
Skip the end season. Skip it. I promise you'll be happier if you skip it.
Now I'm going back and watching Firefly Lane because now I'm like, oh, it's Elliot.
See, I don't like what's her face, Katherine Heigl.
I don't like her either.
So I was skipping Firefly Lane because I don't like Katherine Heigl.
I don't like Katherine Heigl, but I ignore her part, and I do like Sarah. And I like Sarah. I like the actress who's
I can't think of her last name either. So.
No. Anyway, so yeah, I just think it's hysterical that Jeff, what's his? Oh, I'm horrible these names. I know
Jeff,
Donald.
What's his name for what? Don. Yeah.
Okay. Whatever.
I knew somebody went to school
Jeff
with him.
and Donald. And Donald has 6 kids. See? Like, where do these people have to?
Well, he's been acting for a long time and pretty successful at it. Donald Faison.
Donald Faison.
Who is cute.
The previous earlier last week's.
That's Clueless, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
He's so cute in that movie with his
So,
braces.
You gotta listen to the episode from last week because they drive all around Hollywood and they visit places that they first lived, where they first moved there, and places where they they talk about all the different projects they've worked on while living in Hollywood. Like Donald talks about how when he couldn't wait to get there and live in Hollywood with all the big stars, and then he realized nobody who's big lives in Hollywood.
I know.
Only the poor people who
are around.
The poor actors who just get there, who can't afford to live elsewhere, live there. Anyway, so
does that mean he lives in Santa Clarita? Because that's where a lot of them live.
I don't know. Possibly.
And stalking Donald Faison. Yeah, I knew somebody who went to high school with him who works in the industry. She had some fun stories about him in high school. I can't remember any of them. I just remember that detail. That she had high school tea to spill on him.
So that would be my thing, is the Fake Doctors Real Friends podcast.
My heart is so full that you're like watching Scrubs for the first time. Katie?
I have 2. The first one is James and I every night will sit down and watch one episode of something with Gordon Ramsay in it.
That's been a whole.
We've been doing that a lot.
Guy, right?
So we started with Hell's Kitchen. James was watching it on his own, which I'd never really watched, and I was sort of like in and out while he was watching an episode, and I was like, "This is so cheesy and dumb." But then I sat down.
Stressful. Hell's Kitchen seems so stressful.
It is stressful, but it's very fun.
Okay.
So we were watching Hell's Kitchen, but yes, it is stressful. So then we switched to Kitchen Nightmares.
Yes, we've been watching that
which
a lot.
is less stressful.
Yes.
And it is also very fun.
Very formulaic.
I love it.
Yeah.
He also has a show.
How it's gonna go.
Yep. He has a show called Hotel Hell, which is harder to find, and I can't find it streaming anywhere. But it's the same concept as Hell's Kitchen, where he goes and stays at a hotel, and it's like, oh, this bed is dirty, whatever. They teach the food's horrible, whatever. But it's just so wholesome because he's so mean, but then you get little snippets of him being nice to people, and it just warms my little heart. And also, he's such a troll, especially on Hell's Kitchen. He'll do these challenges and fake people out, and you can tell just by the look on his face that he's so thoroughly enjoying messing with these people. It's so fun to watch.
It's been a slow warming to Gordon Ramsay, but
yes.
I think he's adorable.
He's very fun.
I'm really enjoying Kitchen Nightmares. They watch it a lot without me at home, so the one I caught most recently. Do you guys remember that crazy bake shop?
Amy?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the best episode.
So,
Amy's Baking Company.
But then the next season when they come back and they're trying to have a web redemption for them. Yep. And they're just amped up even more.
Horrible people. That is such a good episode.
Gordon Ramsay's here's the footage we didn't show you guys.
Which show was it?
Kitchen Nightmares.
Kitchen Nightmares.
Yeah.
Kitchen Nightmares, is that the one where they try to help people?
ABC. Yes.
To be less nightmarish.
Yeah, your restaurant's gross, or your food is gross, or you need help with whatever.
You need to refresh,
redecorate
you need to clean, you need to da.
But this lady is just insane, and her husband is the biggest instigator /
I'm gonna look it up just for that.
She's not good at cooking.
So she has a bakery?
Well, her
she's good at baking.
Good, yeah.
Oh,
but she's also the chef.
Yeah.
So the people's are my hamburger is gross, and then he gives it to the husband, and he's like, "Don't you insult my wife's food? Get the hell out of here!" And nobody tells the lady that she's doing a bad job, so she thinks she's is the best.
Being mean when they review her, even though they scoop a raw meat on there.
But most bakers will say that they're not chefs, and most chefs
she will say she's both.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of chefs hate dessert.
Yeah.
They hate trying to make dessert because that's not their thing.
It's a whole different.
It's a whole different type of
different set of chemistry. Than
I don't want to spoil what happens in the episode because it's so satisfying. But that is a good episode.
Yeah. So
our favorite thing is we watch an episode and then at the end we Google it, see if the restaurant's still open or not.
That's good.
The majority of them are not. But also they're 10 years old.
Right. Exactly. It's a 10-year, especially
after
after
this. But there was an episode at the Greek in Ventura.
Yeah, I haven't seen that
one. They're still open. Yeah. I think they have new owners, but.
I think, it didn't help the people who owned it at the time with the scuttlebutt I've heard around town.
It is very fun to watch.
The thing I love about Gordon Ramsay is side by side of how he speaks to adults versus how he speaks to children.
He also does MasterChef Junior.
Yes,
it's so cute.
Adorable.
It's very wholesome.
Sweet with kids.
You can tell
really fostering a love of cooking with them. It's lovely.
You can tell
how awful would it be if he's just there to destroy their dreams.
Well, he is a monster to adults, but mostly adults deserve it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
he's a really good judge of character.
Yes,
because he will just rip people to shreds, but then he can tell the people that actually need help versus need to be yelled at. He's super kind to the wait staff.
Yes.
Like in that Amy's Baking episode.
Oh my god.
They give if you eat at this restaurant, you leave a tip on the table. The owner takes the tip and doesn't give it to the waitresses.
What?
And so Gordon Ramsay hands her a bill. It's probably 100 or something.
I know. He took it out of his little pocket.
This is for you. And I'm like, oh, Gordon.
Okay, because you know that. Okay, if you go to a restaurant, you get taxed on what your tips should have been, whether you got it or not.
Well, they were being paid hourly.
What I'm saying is because I had a roommate.
What?
Yeah.
No, you get taxed on the value of the food.
You get if you're a waiter or waitress.
Oh, I see.
You
the
get
employee.
The
okay.
employee gets taxed on what their tips should have been, whether they actually received it or not.
But she's not in the same, like, they were being paid as hourly workers. They weren't being paid as, like...
No, I'm saying, you get your hourly wage, but the IRS, if it audits the restaurant,
no, I understand.
they keep track of what tables you served and how much money those tables came in, and they expect that you would have gotten tips based on a percentage of those. At least that's how it used to be in
but I think if they tell you they're not tipping the out the wait staff, that the IRS wouldn't be considering that.
It doesn't matter.
But it's fun to watch. It's heinous.
Okay.
My favorite interaction with him. So that's where I last watched it. You're probably further than me, but as far as pastry chefs, I think her name was Sharon.
Okay.
Like, he goes into this Italian restaurant. And she's this gorgeous woman. Like, she's just fantastic because she's like huge smile, full of just life, and she is flirting so heavily and openly. And the only thing he liked that he ate was her carrot cake.
And I don't know if I've seen this episode. I'm gonna have to look it up.
It's early on.
Sharon episode.
And it ends up that the restaurant, like, I think it does close, and he has to, like, go find the baker, and she has her own thing going somewhere else.
Oh, this does sound actually very familiar to me. Okay,
and it's just, she is so, like,
every woman loves Gordon Ramsay.
Flirting with Gordon Ramsay.
I like swoon because he'll, like, call people my darling.
I know,
which is like, I know that's just how British people talk, but I'm like, if Gordon Ramsay yelled at me and then called me my darling, I would fall on the floor and faint. I just love it. So that's what every episode I'm like, I want Gordon Ramsay to yell at me, and then I want him to give me a hug.
Which he would.
I know. I love him.
He really cares about people growing and changing and being better.
Because wouldn't that be better than to have him ignore you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, so I was Googling, like, his family and stuff while we were watching, and it said something about 27 when I Googled his wife or something like that.
Oh, no.
And I was like,
no,
this is disgusting. His wife is 27.
No,
and I think they have like 6 kids. Oh my God.
Maybe married 27 years?
Yeah, they've been married for
they've
a
been married a long time.
time.
They have adult
She's
children.
gorgeous. The kids are a little bit, they're in their early 20s.
Yeah.
But he has a little boy, like, who's like a toddler, who's the spitting image of him.
Oh,
there's a second Gordon Ramsay running around like Calabasas.
My baby Ramsay.
Oh my God, I love him. I'm not going to talk about my second obsession because we've talked about this one. I'll save it for next time.
All right, cool. I've got a boring obsession, which is dog training videos and tips. So
okay. Helpful.
Yeah, these dogs are good, but they need a lot of training. And I'm not, like, I've never participated in having a well-trained dog. So I'm all about that this time around.
Nice. Well, that was a fun episode. We went a little longer today, but what else is new?
Longer than the 2 hours.
2 hours and 17 minutes.
Wow, is that a new record?
I actually have no idea. If you are a listener and know, because you probably would know.
We have grown.
Let us know.
It has gotten longer and longer every...
This is a quality episode. You're welcome for the content.
Okay, well, we will see you next month. There's new classes on our website, so go check them out. And a new book coming later this month. And other than that, we will see you next month, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.